Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about What If Deku Was the Gamer Villain Part 1. If you guys enjoy this What If and want to see Part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗧𝗵𝗲 from 𝗬𝗏. So let's start the video. Age 5 stumbling upon All Might on his way home was not what Izuku had wished for that day. He had long since given up on a chance encounter with his favorite hero. After all, celebrities don't just walk around the street all day waiting for a quirkless nobody to request an autograph. But here he was in all his glory. All Might stood in the middle of a crowd of admirers, looking more terrified of the notebooks and phones and gifts being thrust at him than he had ever been in front of villains. Thanks to his small frame, Izuku crawled his way through people's legs with slight difficulty, and soon made his way in front of his idol. Now that Izuku was mere feet away from All Might, he was astonished at the man's extreme physique. That was kinda hard to tell across the monitor. Being next to him made Izuku feel so small and insignificant. But the overwhelming height of the man only brought him a feeling of protectiveness, like being under a shielding giant tree on a rainy day. Trembling from excitement, Izuku bounced up and down as he pushed his notebook up as high as possible, hoping the popular hero would choose his notebook amongst the many that was offered to him. All Might, he yelled, his voice breaking. "See, can I get an autograph?" The second surprise of the day came when All Might heard his pitiful squeak among the clamorous chatters and gladly took the offered notebook. "Of course, what's your name, boy?" "𝗵𝗃 Izuku." All Might signed the notebook with a flash, his signature smile on his face. As he returned it to Izuku, it was incredible how he was capable of looking so cool while doing something so mundane, Izuku mused as he thumbed over the page where All Might's glorious signature carved its way to memory. All Might, the greatest legendary hero, the symbol of peace, protector of the country, the most amazing person alive, had been holding his notebook. Izuku broke out of his musing when he saw All Might bent his legs slightly. A sign his years of observation helped him notice habitually before the man jumped. All Might was leaving. His first encounter with the legendary hero was about to end in less than a minute with a few insignificant exchanges of words that most likely won't be remembered. If he was to think back on it years later, he couldn't just end it like this. He wouldn't. See, can someone without a quirk become a hero? Before the man could leave his sight, Izuku spluttered out a question that had been clogging his mind for years. All Might stood with his back faced towards the crowd, who was starting to get impatient with Izuku getting all the attention. Slowly, he replied in a low tone, "I'm going to be frank with you. Heroes deal with life and death situations on a daily basis. It's not something to be taken lightly of. If a quirkless hero was to participate in a hero fight without any power to defend themselves, they will only be a hindrance to the other heroes and give the villains an advantage. Even with the help of gadgets and equipments, they will still be the weakest link of the heroes. Plus, hero equipments are hard to come by and are a big investment. A group of heroes is only as strong as their weakest member, and the addition of a quirkless hero would greatly reduce the chance of successful captures, which is why a quirkless person has never passed the hero license exam." There were many words that Izuku didn't understand at the time, but one thing he knew was that being quirkless equals to no hero. "I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but I don't want you to waste your life working towards an impossible goal. It's better to give up early than regret later on." All Might's stern face fell when he turned around, beaming. That's all. Izuku didn't hold him back this time, letting his idol jump out of sight. The disappointed crowd dispersed, with a few lingering people throwing dirty looks at the small boy, who was lucky to be blessed with All Might's attention. Even for a few minutes that day, Izuku's dream was totally, completely, and utterly shattered into pieces. Not a single scrap remains. The next day he went through school without his usual vigor. He sat quietly in class, not participating in any of the class discussions. Everything around him seemed to blur out, and the noises seemed to fade. Izuku was in his own little world, a dark, vast, empty space with a small ball of flame lighting up a path that led to infinite darkness. During lunch, he sat alone as usual as he watched his classmates with all their amazing quirks laughing and fooling around. As school came to an end, Izuku packed up quietly, hoping to return home as soon as possible so he could crash onto his bed and just black out. But all good things must come to an end. Kaken appeared next to him with an explosion effect. "What's wrong with you, Deku?" Izuku glanced at him warily. "It's nothing, Kaken." "It's obviously not nothing. You were zoning out the entire day. It took 𝗵𝗃3 times to get your attention, and you didn't even look at me once. What's wrong with you?" Kaken slammed a hand onto his desk, causing Izuku to flinch. Kaken was right. What was wrong with him? Well, for one, he didn't have a quirk, yet he dared to dream about becoming a hero. Then he even had the nerve to speak to All Might. Someone like him, an extra like him, come. Kaken yanked his arm and dragged him out of the classroom. School had ended for a while, and the hallway was nearly void of students. Good, no witnesses. Perfect timing for Kaken to torment him. Even if someone did see the way Kaken was treating him, they would probably dismiss it as Kaken being his usual aggressive self. Izuku's mind spun wildly as memories of past encounters flashed across his mind. Izuku sneaked a glance at Kaken's face. As expected, Kaken was seething like he wanted to murder someone great today. He probably won't let Izuku off the hook. So easily was it too much to ask to just leave him alone. He just wanted to go home. Kaken kicked open the door to the roof for some reason. It wasn't locked. He pulled Izuku near the railing and let go of his arm, looking away and grumbling something underneath his breath. Izuku rubbed his sore wrist, where Kaken had grabbed, as he watched on with confusion. What does Kaken want with him now? Look. You know I hate your guts, right? Kaken's spat face, red with anger, small explosions, danced on his sweaty palms. I know. You don't have to remind me every day, Kaken. Izuku bowed his head, ashamed. He knew Kaken, never saw him as a friend, had known it since he first met him. But it hurt even more to hear it from Kaken. You're a worthless, useless, stupid, quirkless Deku. I hate you. You can't even defend yourself, yet you want to be a hero. Don't make me laugh. What are you gonna do when you face a villain? Huh? Throw your damn notebook at it. The villain could kill you in seconds. If you want to die so badly, then just jump off the roof. It'll save you the time and effort. Kaken rambled on, fingers clawing through his messy hair, as if frustrated that his words would never get through Izuku's thick skull. You hear that? What I'm saying is that a series of small explosions spooked Izuku. Kaken looked so mad. Ha, damn it, stupid shitty Deku. With that said, he ran down the stairs, leaving a trail of smoke behind him. This was the last straw. Izuku knew how useless he was. But he always pushed down those negative thoughts and focused on the positive emotions. He continued to dream on and wish for a brighter future. He hoped one day he'd meet someone who'd support him no matter what, who'd stay by his side and urge him on, who'd tell him you can be a hero. Yesterday's meeting with All Might crushed those hopes. And today's meeting with Kaken even more so extinguished that small flame of ambition inside his heart. Izuku stepped closer to the railing, watching the students trail out of the school gate, a blonde Pomeranian head standing out in the crowd. Some students remained on the field due to club activities. There was a group of students standing on the baseball field not doing anything. No, they were discussing something. Izuku squinted his eyes. Something was off with the field. There were some charred grounds all over the baseball field. They seemed to form something else. Oh no, is that a D? He pushed himself forward, leaning against the railing. That's definitely an E, and then K. And the last one is V. Izuku frowned. Whoever was fooling around would probably get in trouble tomorrow when the teachers caught them. It wasn't Izuku's job to worry. Beside, he didn't care anymore. Whatever that happened to this world, to other people, to the heroes, to the villains, to himself. Izuku placed a hand on the railing, drumming his fingers on it as he walked along the borders of the roof, stopping when he reached the back of the building. Underneath the railing was the back gate of the school that was mostly used by teachers and the likes. It was a shorter distance to the building than the main entrance. Izuku could see some people walking past outside of the locked gate. He wasn't thinking when he pushed himself over the railing. His mind was blank as he stared down his feet at the hard cement ground that seemed suddenly so close to him. His vision swayed, and he felt like he was falling forward. The cold metal under his sweaty palms snapped him out of his trance. His hands tightened painfully around the railing. Sweat caused his palms to become slippery. The realization of what almost happened got his heart racing. What was he thinking? Was he really going to kill himself? Why, his obedient mind began replaying all the rejections he had received. I'm so sorry. Izuku, as his mama cried, you're a worthless, useless, stupid, quirkless Deku. You should just die, screamed Kaken, red-faced. It's better to give up early than regret later on, said his hero, All Might. Maybe it was better to die. Maybe he'd be born with a quirk in his next life. But as he was contemplating, his mama's face appeared in his mind. Her crinkling eyes when she found him during hide and seek, her soft laugh when she played heroes versus villains make-believe with him, her warm smile when they watched hero movies together, her beautiful glowing emerald long hair under the sun, her awkward pose as Izuku fumbled with the camera during their visit to All Might Amusement Park. All those happy memories surged up all at once as Izuku thought back to how much his mama treasured him, how he was everything she had. His grip on the railing tightened. He couldn't do it not when he imagined how much pain it would bring to mama, how much she'd cry in his absence, or how she'd sit on the couch alone in the dark, with the TV's dim light dancing off of her dull blank eyes that used to be so remarkably bright. How could he possibly hurt mama like this? How selfish was he to only think about his own pain and problems and not spend a penny worth of thought on his mama? What kind of son was he? This was stupid. He shouldn't do this. Had just be a cop or something, no matter what, he had to keep on living. For his mama's sake, Izuku didn't even realize he was shaking until he tried to get himself over the railing. The severity of the near-death situation just dawned on him, and all those fears that was absent turned out to be merely delayed. He couldn't bring any power to his hands, and the railing was too high for him to simply jump over. He couldn't stop trembling. No matter how much he tried, he regretted doing this. He was so stupid. If he hadn't done this in the first place, then he wouldn't be falling off the roof right now. School just ended. It was a fairly normal day for Tobita. He didn't pay attention in class, but instead doodled his hero costume in his elegant pocket notebook. Teachers yelled at him, and he just tuned them out as usual. 𝗧𝗪𝗏, the best student in the hero course, was popular with the girls as always, and according to the rumors, he had already been accepted to a hero agency. Tobita had sat aside and watched with masked disinterest and slight suppressed envy as he ate his bento, talking about bentos his mom had been slacking off while making them. They used to be so aesthetically beautiful. Now he lost his appetite whenever he looked at it. Well, at least it was still wrapped perfectly in his favorite furoshiki. One thing that made today slightly different was the parent conference in the principal's office. That arrowhead principal once again ranted about his behavior issues, but this time in front of his parents. Tobita had seen the gleeful looks in the man's eyes when his dad glared at him and his mother began crying in distress, and he didn't like it. It was a look full of mockery and superiority, barely kept hidden behind fake pleasantries and professionalism. It was obvious that the principal had already given up on Tobita and lost all hopes of him ever achieving something remotely satisfactory. Arrowhead's mask had crumbled for a second when he mentioned how expulsion was a possible ending if Tobita didn't up his game, but it was quickly replaced with a concerned smile before his parents caught on to it. He thought that threat was enough to waver Tobita's determination. Well, it would take more than that. Tobita wasn't going to give up his hero dream. If that was what he was planning, his optimism was his best weapon, and he would continue fighting for a bright future. However, his grades indeed needed some polishing, judging from the heated glares his father had been shooting him with. He won't be getting away scot-free this time. He would have to put more effort into his schoolwork. But how do the teachers expect him to become a hero if they don't give him more opportunities to do actual hero stuff? Experiences were a necessary requirements when applying for hero agencies. Thus Tobita continued actively searching for opportunities to save people, and that led him to a crowd of people gawking at something high above them. Tobita glanced out of curiosity and found a window cleaner panicking on the suspended platform that was barely connected to the building. Wire ropes snapping apart. It was his chance. Tobita grinned. Head, show them how heroic he was. He would save that man the moment the last wire rope snapped. Tobita rushed forward, creating air cushions to launch himself towards the falling man. In his hurry, he didn't notice a hero rushing to rescue. The scene seemed to be going in slow motion. The man was falling, and he was getting closer. Then someone rammed into his barrier. Tobita gaped in shock as another man dressed like a pro hero frantically found his footing and jumped towards the fallen man yet again. But the encounter delayed his rescue, and the man fell onto the ground in a sickening crack, the perfect sound effect of the current state of Tobita's heart. Later that day. Today was a horrible day, Tobita decided when he was finally released by the furious hero and the police. His mother stayed back, still apologizing profusely, as the police reminded her repeatedly the severity of her son's actions. This incident would be brought up to the principal, and with his already low reputation, expulsion seemed like it wasn't outside the range of possibilities. Great, just great. The sun was setting, and the road home seemed longer than normal. Tobita shuffled his feet, staring hard at the stubborn ground. How he wished for the ground to open up and swallow him whole right here, right now. Maybe life would be better if he lived in a hole. The world was too cruel for him. Heroes saved people. But where was his hero? His mind was a mess. Terrible thoughts of what was to be expected bombarded his bursting head. How would his parents react if he was actually expelled? How would his classmates react? Would he still be able to go to school? Was his parents going to kick him out? Could he still be a hero? The last question drifted a while longer in his mind as he took in his surroundings. He had walked upon the elementary school he always saw on his way home. Today was no different. The back gate was locked. The guard was snoring. A cat was stealing the fish off of his bento. The school was nearly empty. The roof was wait, is that? Tobita couldn't believe what he was seeing. He rubbed his eyes, then pinched himself just to make sure. A boy was standing on the edge of the rooftop, outside of the railing. He couldn't see the boy's face from afar, but judging by his slouched posture, it seemed like this was a suicide situation. For a moment Tobita contemplated turning away and continuing his miserable life. His earlier incident was a clear indicator that he wasn't hero material. He had also failed the provisional hero license exam 4 times. He had faced rejections all his life, and his attempts to help someone almost always ended up biting him in the rear. Why would this time be any different? It wasn't like saving one person would make him a hero anyway. But when he saw the boy attempt to climb back over the railing, but slipped and lost his footing, Tobita moved, his mind suddenly clear. Who cares if no one believed in him? Who cares if no one appreciated his help? Who cares if he'd be expelled tomorrow and his hero dream was likely crushed for life? If he was going to watch a child fall to his death without doing something to help when he had the ability to do so, then he wasn't even a man, let alone a hero. Gently rebound, Tobita jumped onto the elastic barrier and launched over the locked gate. The guard remained asleep. He repeated the technique, and another aerial cushion appeared underneath. The falling boy Tobita prayed silently as he watched the boy land on the elastic, stretching it a little and bouncing back up. Tobita was already in position, and he caught the boy's small body without much effort. All the energy seemed to vanish and Tobita fell onto his knees, his bangs drenched with sweat. Perspiration mixed with gel slid down his cheeks, making its way very uncomfortably into his uniform. That stubborn little curl once again escaped his gelled rest of his hair and flopped against his forehead. His heart was racing so fast. He was sure the boy was able to hear it well. When he came out of the trance, that was when his feet slipped and his grip slackened. Izuku was so sure that today was the last day of his life. As he was falling down, he didn't panic. It actually felt quite nice to be in the air, not restrained to any surface. He wondered briefly if anyone would save him, if All Might would know. He clenched his eyes shut. All Might had no reason to show up at an ordinary elementary school. He was probably busy fighting villains on the street. No one was going to come to his rescue. The school was nearly empty, most teachers already left. Nobody knew he was on the roof, except Kaken, who had already left the school. Izuku was going to die. His head was going to hit the concrete so hard it shattered to pieces, much like the state of his hero dream. No one would save him. No one. Izuku hit the ground, but he didn't feel any pain. The ground was surprisingly soft, and it seemed kind of stretchy, like rubber. Izuku thought as his fingers made contact with the ground. Soft, slim, but not wet rubber. Izuku felt his body sink and then bounce up right into a pair of strong, steady arms. The world stopped spinning, and all movement stilled. Izuku felt the silky smooth texture of clothing rubbing against his cheeks. He could faintly hear the beating of a fast, thumping heart. He cracked open an eye slowly. The concerned face of a stranger filled his vision. Unable to believe what just happened, Izuku had to ask to make sure, "Did you save me?" The stranger let out a chuckle, sighing deeply. "Seems like you're okay." He bent down and allowed Izuku to stand on his own. "Can you walk?" Izuku tested a few steps. His legs felt like jelly. "Yeah, no, you can't," the stranger interjected. He bent down, back facing Izuku. "Get on, I'll carry you." "Roman 2 can't trouble you. You already saved my life." "That's more than enough." "That's not enough." The man gently took Izuku's hand and placed it on his shoulder. "You're probably still terrified of what just happened. I'm not leaving you to deal with the aftermath by yourself." Izuku got on his back reluctantly. "Where do you live?" XXXX. "Okay, hang on tight." The man shifted Izuku so he could sit more comfortably. "So tell me what happened." Izuku bit his lips. It was a mistake in the first place, and now that he thought back to what he had tried to do, his face heated up, and he tightened his clench on his savior's silky suit. He didn't want to tell the man who just saved him that he had tried to kill himself merely because nobody told him what he wanted to hear. It would sound like he was just seeking attention. He was afraid the man would regret having saved him after knowing he was just stupid, quirkless Deku, who couldn't do anything right, but still wanted attention when he didn't deserve them. "Hey." The voice snapped Izuku out of his thoughts. "I can't help you if you don't tell me your problems. People want to end their lives for all kinds of reasons. I am sure that whatever problems you are facing, there is someone in this world right this moment that's having the exact same problem as you are. So there's no need to feel embarrassed. Problems cannot be solved if they remain hidden, you know." Izuku started. The man's words hit home. Was there really someone who'd also gone through what he had, who knew what he was feeling? How do they overcome it? How do they deal with it? He wanted to know. "I am quirkless." There was no visible reactions from the man on. "I want to be a hero, but everyone told me I can't do it. Even my mama, even my best friend, everyone laughed at me. I mean, I get it. I have no power, so there's no way for me to become a hero. Hero's job is dangerous. And if I do become one, I'd only slow everyone down. But I just can't help it. I want to be a hero so bad. I think about it every day. Everything I do is so I can become a hero. Without that, if you take that dream away from me, then Izuku's voice cracked. Unable to continue, streams of tears rolled down his cheeks, blurring his visions. He wanted to bury his face into those broad shoulders to seek comfort and to cry to his heart's content. But he didn't want to cause the man any more trouble. The man stayed silent. After Izuku's confession, Izuku waited, panicking. Did he say too much? Was the man mad at him? "Hey." The man started. "You don't get to choose what you yearn to be. Sometimes your heart's words don't match up to what your logical mind's telling you. You know that it's impossible for a quirkless person to become a hero, but your heart only speeds up to the idea of becoming a hero. That cannot be controlled or suppressed by any means. Doing so would only cause you pain. If I can't stop that, then what can I do so I don't feel any more pain?" The man turned his head, and Izuku was shown the brightest smile he has ever seen. It wasn't the confident, victorious smile All Might symbolically held on his face everywhere he appears. It was the smile of someone giving their all to overcome the obstacles thrown at them. They may not win, but they were trying and wishing with that hopeful smile on their face that everything would be all right, that they would win in the end. Do what your heart tells you. But I can't become a hero. I'm quirkless. Other quirkless people may have failed to become a hero. But you're not them. They failed to do so doesn't mean you will also fail. Many factors lead to failure. Who's to say those factors also apply to you? It's not always the end result that matters, it's the process. If you still failed to become a hero after giving it you're all, you can at least look back and say, hey, I've done everything I can to achieve this dream, but I still failed. So it's not my fault. I've given it my all. You would have no regret. But if you were to give up now, then when you're older, you would look back and think, if I haven't given up back then, maybe, just maybe, I would have achieved this dream. It's my fault for not even giving it a try, remember. Even if there's a very small chance of success, it's still a chance. You can't say something is impossible without taking every opportunity to give a go at it. Izuku didn't know if the man did something with his quirk. But these words were like magic, suddenly clearing up his troubled mind and lighting up his path. All the uncertainty, anxiety vanished from his mind. This was the first time someone told him you can become a hero. Izuku's world stopped. Believe in that, give it your best, and see where that leads you. Life is filled with miracles and mystery. If you failed in the end, then oh well, at least you tried and have nothing to regret. If you succeeded, then 𝐻𝐽 will be able to prove everyone wrong. 𝐻𝐽 will show them that the boy they look down upon is now a hero. They'll have to rely on you to watch their backs. They'll look up to you, admire you, appreciate you. 𝐻𝐽 will be at a place so high up those bullies can't even reach the bottom of your shoes. As the man said this, his entire frame trembled. There was a determined grin on his face, and it lit up that flame of ambition that momentarily disappeared. Izuku shuddered as the infectious smile brought a wave of excitement coursing throughout his body. This was the first time in his life he felt like he could actually do this. No, he would become a hero, and no one, not even Kaken or All Might, could stop him. Izuku was burning with passion. On the rest of the ride home, he opened up to his savior and told him his name, his hero All Might, and how this man was now his new hero, his best friend Kaken, and his explosive personality, of which the man questioned, that doesn't sound very heroic to me. Are you sure he didn't misunderstand the word friend and hero? His favorite person in the world, Mama, and pretty much gave the man an autobiography on himself. He also asked the man his name, which the man replied, my name is Tobita. But call me gentle. I am aiming to become the gentle hero, someone who can save the spirits and heart of the victims with his mere presence and the mention of his name. Izuku was surprised to find out that the man was still in high school. He looked much older, or perhaps it was just due to the suit. In response to Izuku's confusion, the young man sheepishly admitted how he did poorly in school and had to drop back 2 grades. It was like a dam being broken. Many more embarrassing admissions flowed out of his lips. Izuku listened quietly as the young man recounted his life. How he got into a normal school with an okay hero course, but didn't work hard enough and failed all his classes. How he failed the hero license exam 4 times because he didn't put enough effort into it. And now all those failures led up to him failing to save someone earlier the day and was likely to be expelled. It's embarrassing telling you to give it your all, but not staying true to those words. Myself, Gentle said, letting out an awkward laugh. But you saved me. Gentle seemed to have forgotten that he indeed had just saved Izuku's life, as he perked up with a huh. Even after failing so many times, you still didn't give up your hero dream. It's thanks to you that I can live on and give my hero dream a try. Thank you, Gentle, you're my hero. There was a long silence. After that, Izuku cocked his head sideways and saw a streak of tears on Gentle's cheeks. His expression frozen, eyes widened, lips parted slightly in shock. Gee, Gentle. Izuku held onto Gentle's shoulder when the teenager let go of one hand to wipe away his tears. It's the first time ever. Gentle choked out, his voice trembling. I can be a hero too. I saved someone's life, am a hero. Izuku wasn't sure if Gentle was still talking to him, but he responded nonetheless. Yeah, you're a hero, Gentle, you're my hero. For the first time, Izuku didn't want to enter his house. What's wrong? Gentle watched him with a gleeful smile. Do you need a save? The gentle hero is here for your convenience. Izuku laughed at the flashing pose Gentle striked. Ever since he told the teenager how he was now Izuku's favorite hero, the older boy didn't stop gloating over his confession. Gentle had probably gone through a lot more than what Izuku had, so to hear someone tell him all his efforts weren't wasted, and that he was actually a hero, must have felt pretty good. Izuku himself felt like he was sitting on clouds ever since Gentle told him he could become a hero. I have been saved enough for the day, Izuku chuckled. I can't just sit and wait for heroes to save me every time I'm in trouble. I need to start saving myself and other people, because that's what a hero does. Gentle's expression softened upon hearing those words. He crouched down and ruffled Izuku's fluffy curly hair. Nicely said, kid. Now get inside that house and stop making your mom worry, because heroes don't make other people worry about their well-being. Gentle took out a pocket-sized notebook with intricate designs, looking as if it came right out of a medieval fantasy world. He scribbled something onto a page near the end and ripped it out, wincing slightly, as if it caused him physical pain to hurt his notebook. Here, this is my phone number. Call me if you need. Gentle the hero. And about what I said earlier, I too need to stop making people worry about me. I promise next time you see this face, I will be a whole new gentle. I will be a hero worthy of your admiration. Izuku took the slip of paper and carefully tucked it inside his pocket. I'll be waiting. He walked up to his door and slid his keys inside, unlocking it. He glanced back. Gentle stood there with a soft smile, making sure he made it inside his house safely. Izuku waved at him, grinned, and closed the door behind him. Something exploded in his face, followed by a shower of glitters. Izuku stood bewildered. As the scene played out, happy birthday 𝗧𝗍𝗧𝗏. His mama 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏's mama and papa were standing at the doorstep, holding party poppers. Confetti fell all over Izuku and splayed in a mess on the ground. What took you so long? I got here an hour ago. Only Kaken would talk to him like this on his birthday. To be honest, that massive blow to his confidence yesterday had totally erased his birthday off of his mind. He should have realized yesterday when his mama told him to come home by himself for these 2 days, because she got some errands to run, that something was going on. Her overprotective nature would never let Izuku walk home by himself when he was still this young. Kaken's mama Mitsuki whacked Kaken on his head. Dumbass. She ignored Kaken's papa. Masaris whispers language. Mikan. I told you to walk home with Izuku. What happens if a villain wants to eat some children today and snatches one of you? I did wait. That idiot never showed up, so I left by myself. No, you didn't wait. Izuku wasn't going to call him out on it, though, since he could understand where he was coming from. Kaken would never allow himself to be seen walking home together with Izuku like they were friends anyway. Why don't we keep the scolding for tomorrow? Today is a day of happiness and celebration. Let's start by exchanging presents. Izuku wondered why his mama looked more excited than he, the birthday boy. That thought was thrown to the back of his mind, however, as the two families situated themselves in the living room. At the foot of a big All Might poster was a bunch of presents. Izuku couldn't sit still. He jumped up from his seat next to Kaken, who looked annoyed, and bounced excitedly. So which one first? Which one first? And which one do you want to open first? Izuku plunged into the pile of presents, feeling and shaking all of the unmarked boxes. He chose the smallest box in the end. I'll open this one first. Kaken tensed up. For the past few years, Kaken didn't get him anything, which always resulted in a heavy head bashing from Mitsuki. The next day, perhaps Kaken did it this year to escape his mama's fist. Izuku wasn't sure, but he was eager to see what Kaken had gotten him. He peeled the horribly wrapped box carefully, so slowly Kaken had to yell, "Hurry up. I don't have all day," and got another whack in the head. He didn't know what to expect, but he definitely wasn't expecting a small device designed and colored like the face of All Might, with a strap connected to it and a hook on the end. On the strap were red, blue, and yellow beads that spelled out Deku. "This is a security alarm for kids. Katsuki spent months saving up his allowance to buy this little thing," he said. And I quote, "Deku needs someone to look out for him, and I can't be there all the time." He even sold some of his valuable hero collection cards to earn money. Shut up, you old hag." Kaken was blushing furiously. He kept punching his mama in response, which was pretty much the most he would do when it came to his mama. He would never in his life use his quirk and attack her for real. Izuku rolled the security alarm around in his palm. It was small, lightweight, and easily accessible. He pulled the strap just to test it out. As soon as the strap disconnected from the device, a shrill screeching cry emitted from it, halting all movements in the living room. Izuku hurriedly plugged the strap back in, and the cry stopped. His mama started, voice hesitant. "Don't do that again, UK. Unless it's an emergency, UK mama, sorry." Izuku was the closest, so he received the worst from it. He definitely wasn't doing that again, unless it was a life and death situation. He turned to Kaken and gave him his biggest smile to showcase his appreciation. "Thank you so much, Kaken. I'll treasure this. 𝗵𝗃 whatever." Next up, Izuku picked out Mitsuki's gift. It was a dozen round rubber balls that would explode into a blinding light. If certain conditions were made, Mitsuki got him 6 that explodes on impact and 6 that explodes 6 seconds after the initial impact. They were the child toy version of the flash bombs. Some heroes and villains used your turning 6. So these numbers should be easy to remember. I thought you might need something to delay your bullies, so you can run away. Mitsuki later apologized for accidentally making it 666. The devil's number. Masaris present was an All Might themed bicycle. Kaken couldn't stand Izuku following him around riding a tricycle designed for babies, so he took it upon himself and taught Izuku how to ride without the supporting wheels. It may have taken almost half a year, and Kaken's almost giving up over a dozen times, but eventually Izuku was able to ride a normal bicycle, and Kaken's ego was boosted incrementally. After that, next up was Mama's present. It was a thin envelope. "I couldn't think of anything else to get you since you pretty much have all the All Might mercs you wanted, so I got you that now." That got him curious. What else did he want that he hadn't gotten yet? Izuku teared the envelope and shook out the content. It fell onto the carpet ground soundlessly. With trembling hands, Izuku held up a golden badge with the letters YHP engraved across the bottom. Is this? Izuku's hands trembled as he held onto the crest. He had only seen been worn on other older children's proud chest. You've been accepted to Youth Hero Program. Congratulations, Mama said in her best broadcaster voice, making everyone laugh. Roman 3 love it, thank you Mama. Izuku dived into his mama's open arms and smothered her with wet kisses, earning more laughs from the family. Last but not least was the biggest box from Papa, even bigger than the box for the bicycle. Izuku unpacked it only to see another box inside. He cut through that only to see another slightly smaller box under it. He continued killing boxes for at least 30 minutes, until he finally got to the surprise. It was a game disc. What a surprise! If the game had been packaged normally, Izuku would be excited to play it now. He, along with everyone else, were so hateful of the dozens of unnecessary boxes that he simply set the game aside and grumbled, "Stupid Papa." The game disc was given the silent treatment for the rest of the party. Izuku had a lot of fun, and he believed it was sufficient to say that today was the best day in his life. He not only met the one who believed in him, he also received numerous awesome presents, even from Kaken, including the news of his enrollment to 𝗵𝗃. That was probably the best gift he had received. By the time the day was over, both families were exhausted. The Bakugo family had to drag an unwilling Kaken away from Mama's homemade spicy popcorn. He only stopped yelling at the top of his lungs when Mama packed the rest into a Ziploc bag and let him take it home. Izuku helped Mama clean up the haywire resulting from Bakugo's presence. Then he took a shower. While Mama did dishes, he had to get a good night's sleep considering he had school tomorrow. But when he passed the living room and saw the game disc, he hesitated. After all, it was still a birthday present, and birthday presents were supposed to be opened on the day they were received. After getting the permission from Mama to only check it out, Izuku raced upstairs into his gaming room and inserted the disc into the console. As he waited for the game to load, he scrutinized the case. The cover was black with only the words "Game of Life" written on it in sketchy, messy scrawls. There was nothing else in or on the case. No brand name, summary, game type. No nothing. Izuku wondered what Papa was thinking when he bought this game. The game had finished loading. The startup screen was suspicious. As well, it was a completely dark screen with the sentence "click any button to continue." Izuku did, and led to the next screen, the same background, but more sentences. The top was a quote: "Life is a game in a world where 80 are VIP players. Being quirkless means your game of life will be more difficult than the others. No matter your difficulty level, this is the one game everyone has to play. Game over or refusal to play means the end of your life. Every choice matters. Make your choice wisely. Play difficult, normal, easy. Exit death." Despite how sketchy this game was, there was something about it that made Izuku want to know more. His finger hovered over the confirmation button. The top choice highlighted. Izuku had almost died twice today. He knew how much he valued his life, and there was no way he was going to even risk the chance of losing his life again. He pressed play. The screen blacked out. Then, as if Izuku had just put on his 3D glasses, the black screen wiggled out of the TV screen and paddled on thin air using its two lower corners. It stopped a few feet away from Izuku, and with a glass-shattering visual and sound effect, the black rectangle crumbled into tiny pieces, leaving behind a RPG player profile screen with blue-tinted letters, much like what one would see with VR goggles. The bluish screen enlarged, and Izuku could see 5 tabs on top, with the current display being the first tab profile underneath. It was a hologram of him wearing a shirt and shorts with slots surrounding him. Next to it was a game-like stat sheet named Midoriya Izuku. Title: None LV1 X0 1 HP 1 5 MP 1 5s. Age 6 quirks. None STR35 being average for your age. Def 4 Sp 4 Dex 4. Luck 8 changes everyday. Rep points 0 techniques. None. Izuku wasn't sure how long he sat there just staring dumbly at the screen. The controller had long since fallen onto the ground. It wasn't until he heard the shower turn off in the bathroom when he snapped out of it. In a rush, he left the game disc inside the console. When he shut it down, he made it safely to his bed before Mama checked on him. He had promised to go to sleep before she finished showering, and he didn't want to be scolded on his birthday. Lying on his bed, Izuku finally accepted the situation. He wasn't even sure what to accept: that he could now see a VR screen without VR goggles, that he was playing some sort of game that turned his physical body characteristics into stats. He had to look more into this. The screen had disappeared. Izuku thought back to it, wishing for it to appear, and it did, floating yet again in the air in front of Izuku. This time, he noticed a banner at the bottom of the screen: tutorial, a brief explanation of the control panel. Check it out close. Izuku thought about pressing the first option, but before his finger touched the screen, the option was selected automatically, as if it could be controlled with his mind. Even better. This way, Izuku wouldn't be labeled as the quirkless freak who tried to touch air. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Master." A metallic sphere popped into existence. It had a slit across the middle that revealed a wide, terrifying eye, and a smaller slit beneath it as a mouth with jagged teeth. It continued in its monotonous voice: "𝗵𝗃𝗲 11412 here for your service. Feel free to call me 𝗃𝗲. Can I call you something else now?" While its hard-hittedness rivaled the hardness of its shell, Izuku was a little creeped out by the freaky eye that bored into him unblinking. But he stood his ground. He was aiming to be a hero. He could handle this. Now let us continue. There are 5 tabs. The first one, profile, shows your profile. Obviously, you have to be a complete retard to not understand it. Izuku felt a little insulted, pouting. He glared defiantly at the Cyclops creature. The second tab, quests, shows the status of your quests, which you don't have any currently. Quests can be obtained in many ways. They often give satisfactory rewards, so make sure you complete as many quests as you can find. Even the side quests can prove beneficial in the long run. You never know when you'll need a strand of hair from All Might or a catnip. Izuku had an urge to protest, but he stuffed it down, not wanting Gola to throw any more casual insults around. The third tab, Bazaar, has 5 categories of items that you can purchase with your reputation point, which are gained by being known. They are gadgets, costumes, disposable items, misc, and last but not least, 𝗬𝗪𝙢𝗪𝗏. A fast rhythmic beat echoed in his room. Izuku wondered if he was the only one who could hear it, seeing how his mama didn't barge in, panicking. Quirks, wait, quirks. Izuku slapped a hand over his mouth when he let slip a shriek. Master, you can talk to me telepathically. I can hear your thoughts. SSSO, you're saying that I can actually buy quirks. Any quirk? Can I have multiple quirks? What kind of quirks are there, master? You will be able to unlock the bazaar once you earn a reputation point, but to do that you'll need to complete quests. Before Izuku could ask more, Gola continued. Next tab is map. It will show nearby quests and your current location, and the last tab is inventory. You currently have 5 slots available. More will be unlocked as you level up. It allows you to store and retrieve non-living objects. Same objects can stack. This concludes the tutorial. Do you have any questions, master? Yes. Izuku excitedly waved his hand. So about the quirk, how do I get a quirk? Master, there are many ways you can buy quirks in the bazaar for 1,000 and 1,000 points. Each. Some rare quests may reward you a quirk upon completion. You can also choose a free quirk every 10 levels you level up. Any other questions? About the inventory test. Gola clicked its tongue like it was annoyed. It did a very obvious eye roll, not even attempting to hide its annoyance. Izuku gulped. Now he felt bad. Last question. I promise. So how do I put stuff into the inventory? Fairly simple. Just put your hand on it and visualize the item inside a slot. It will appear inside. Is that all, master? Yeah. Gola vanished, its body breaking down into cubes, which proceeded to crumble into smaller cubes. Soon the cubes became as small as air particles and couldn't be seen by the naked eye. Izuku lay back down onto his soft pillow. He grabbed his All Might watch from his nightstand and tried putting it inside the inventory. It worked on the first try. While he gasped in awe, ogling at the small watch icon in the slot. Cool, he whispered. That night, Izuku played around with the inventory for a long time until he finally fell asleep. In his dream, he saw himself getting into the best hero school, Yuha High School, and meeting many popular heroes. He made many friends, became popular, and even talked with All Might again. The dream ended with him saving All Might's life and being hailed a hero by the public. The next morning, Izuku woke up to All Might's shouts of "Im, here, Im, here." He turned off his blaring alarm in a swift motion and rolled out of the bed. Tiny feet made contact with the cold floor, making him shiver. As he was getting ready for school, he spotted the presents he received yesterday. It was definitely a smart move to carry a security alarm on him at all time, but he didn't want to risk the strap accidentally disconnecting and causing a false alarm. Therefore, he stored it into a slot in the inventory. 15. Next up, he stored the 12 mini flash bombs, taking up 2 slots, with one being those that exploded upon impact, 25, and the second being those that took 6 seconds to explode, 35. Then Izuku saw the bike. It would be convenient to have a transportation tool wherever he went, but its disappearance would cause his mama to panic, so that was a no-go. He looked around his room and at last decided to store all his hero analysis notebooks in the inventory. They all took up 1 slot because they were the same type of items, 45. Those were his treasures, and losing them would be painful. Izuku left the last slot empty for emergencies. During breakfast, Izuku couldn't stop wiggling in his chair. On one hand, he desperately wanted to tell his mama what happened last night, but on the other hand, he was afraid of her response. His mama was an easily scared person. It was very likely for her to react negatively to the game of life. Maybe she'd even think something was wrong with his head and take him to the hospital or scold him for making things up. But again, she was the most important person in his life. After everything she'd done for him, he felt like she deserved to know. Is something the matter? Izuku twirled his spoon absent-mindedly. No, not really. I'll tell you later, mama. Now wasn't the time he'd tell her. When he had everything figured out, it was still possible that somebody was playing a trick on him. When he finished eating, he waited by the entrance as he watched mama take out her bicycle from the backyard. Mama always took him to school on a bike, but today Izuku wanted to try something different. Mama, can I ride my new bike to school? Mama bit her lips, frowning. Okay, but mama's riding with you. And we're not riding on the street. It's too dangerous for you. After getting her confirmation, Izuku eagerly brought out his new All Might bicycle. The red, blue, and yellow glowed under the morning sun, much like All Might's presence in the face of danger. Do you have your security alarm on you? Izuku pushed his hand into his pocket, retrieved the item from inventory, and brought it out. It's in my pocket. Good boy, Mama smiled. She got on the bike, and Izuku did the same alongside her. Izuku, you ride in the front so Mama can keep an eye on you, okay? The ride to school was a totally different experience. Walking was too slow, sitting in a car made it too fast, bicycling was just the right pace to have a good look at the surroundings before the scenery changed. School wasn't very far from their house, so even with Izuku riding in a slow speed for safety reasons, they arrived at the school in less than 10 minutes. Perhaps it was his imagination, but Izuku felt like everyone was watching him. No staring at his bike when he entered the school, his mama waving goodbye by the entrance. For the first time, Izuku didn't cower under the stairs. He felt powerful, just like whenever he dressed in his mini All Might One Piece. He felt motivated, and that he could succeed in anything. The bike seemed to have the same effect on his spirit. The day went by in a flash. Izuku had his entire mind on the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 that he barely caught onto what the teacher was saying. The game of life screen also kept him distracted during class. After flipping through the dictionary, he decided to call it digitalization, which was, and he quote, the process of converting information into a digital format. There was no better name for a game that turned his entire life into a digital game. As it turned out, Izuku could use digitalization to observe other people's levels. It occurred when he stared at 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 and wondered what 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 level was. You have learned technique, observe LV1. Bakugo Katsuki LV1. Izuku was surprised to find that 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 was the same level as he was. Perhaps a person's level was determined by their age or their grade in school. To testify his hypothesis, Izuku used observe on the rest of his classmates. Observe 1. The notification popped up every time he used it, and soon Observe had reached level 2. As it turned out, everyone in his class was level 1. It made Izuku feel a little bit better that quirk didn't play a role in a person's level. Just for fun, Izuku also observed his teacher Yama-sensei, a bald, middle-aged man with a triangle-shaped head. His features were all crumbled together, and he made grumpy, frowning faces at everyone, as if everyone owed him money. His quirk allowed him to blend into the mountain upon contact. He turned out to only be at level 5. Izuku continued playing around with Observe for the rest of the day. 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 didn't seem to pay him any mind, and he didn't actively try to initiate a conversation. Either 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 seemed to be in a bad mood after their homeroom teacher scolded him early in the morning for something Izuku was unsure of, and that caused him to literally explode every time someone talked to him. Everyone could sense his bad mood and stayed out of his path for the rest of the day. When school ended, Izuku met 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿's mother Mitsuki at the gate, who was there to pick up 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿. When she saw Izuku and his mama getting on their respective bikes, she complimented them on how it was a good exercise and a good bonding time between family members. She wished she could do the same with 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿, but that was even less likely than his being nice to her. For once that night, Izuku barely got any homework done because he was so excited for 𝗧𝗵𝗃 tomorrow. He couldn't even sleep, so he reread all his superhero comics until sleep took over him. The next morning, Izuku woke up to his mama tickling his feet. He dodged and pushed her hands away, giggling. But in the end, her flimsy fingers always wiggled their way to his ticklish spots. MMA mama stop. Izuku laughed so hard he was crying. While avoiding those menacing fingers, he accidentally kicked mama in the face. Now I got you, little devil. Mama faked an evil laugh. It was such a bad imitation, Izuku almost burst out laughing again. And he did when mama tickled his captured feet continuously until he surrendered. Up. Izuku sat up, clenching his stomach and wheezing. His cheeks still had tracks of tears on them, and his mouth was so sore from smiling. He swore he would never do this to anyone, not even someone he greatly disliked. It was too cruel. Aside from waking up, Izuku did everything else as fast as possible. He brushed his teeth at a flying speed, splashed water on his face, wiped them dry, and rubbed lotion all over, making a mess of his face, and had to have his mama fix it all up. He got dressed in his favorite All Might t-shirt and a pair of dark green shorts. As he wolfed down his cereal, Izuku asked after swallowing his mouthful, "Is 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 going?" Unfortunately, no, honey. Mitsuki signed him up for drum lessons on the weekends. Katsuki-kun asked for it himself. Actually, he said it's a musical instrument befitting of his quirk and personality. Izuku resumed eating. He didn't like the feeling of satisfaction that rose within him upon hearing that 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐿 wouldn't be accompanying and tormenting him in 𝗧𝗵𝗃 too. It made him feel guilty, like he'd done something wrong. The rest of the breakfast was filled with Izuku bouncing around in his seat in excitement, and his mama smiling softly. When the two were ready to leave the house, his mama paused in front of her bike and gave him a serious look. "Izuku, you know mama is very sorry. I've said something very awful to you back then. I gave up on you when you needed me the most. I was afraid to let you pursue your dream because I think it's too far out of the reach of a quirkless boy, and that fear of mine dragged you down. I should have been there for you, supporting your dream, giving you the push on your back you desperately needed, like a mother should do. I'm so sorry for realizing that too late. But starting now, you have mama's support no matter what. Mama has faith in you, Izuku. You can be a hero. Can you forgive mama? Familiar burning returned to his eyes. Izuku didn't say anything. He simply ran into mama's open arms and hugged her with all his might, breathing in her scent, mesmerizing in her touch, not wanting to let go. He thought back to how he had wanted to end his life. Yet here mama was supporting him deep inside. And he never knew. He was so glad Gentle had saved him yesterday. Otherwise, what would happen to mama? I forgive you, mama. The ride to 𝐒𝐲𝗵𝗃 was silent. He caught mama sneaking glances at him, and he just grinned, pressing a fist to his chest, eyes determined. As they pulled up to 𝗂𝐲𝗵𝗃, there was already a teacher at the entrance. She was a young woman with brown hair, wrapped up in a loose bun. Her large, soft caramel eyes were clear like the cloudless sky. Welcome to Youth Hero Program, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺. You must be Midoriya-san and Izuku-kun, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 said with a big smile. Nice to meet you, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺-san. I'll be entrusting Izuku to you. Mama turned to him as he got off his bike. Now go become a hero, Izuku. Just watch me, mama. I'll be the biggest hero you've ever seen. With one last hug and kiss from mama, Izuku walked his bike towards the kind lady, watching mama speed away into the distance. YHP was the acronym for Youth Hero Program. It was an after-school program designed for children who dreamed of becoming a hero. It began many years ago, when All Might made his debut as the symbol of peace. His debut inspired many people to become heroes, and the nation was in desperate need of an institution to satisfy those children's hero dreams when too many children got injured while attempting to commit heroic acts in public. And thus 𝗂𝐲𝗵𝗃 was established to take in those children and teach them how to use their quirks accurately, how they can be applied to save and rescue missions, and to give them a taste of the job as a hero by allowing them to commit heroic acts under safe conditions and pro-heroes' supervision. Over the years, rate of illegal public usage of quirks had decreased. Although the police couldn't punish the children for committing that offense, they could give warnings to the parents. But that often didn't do much. Illegal use of quirks wasn't an extremely severe crime. Unless the offender had caused serious injury to people and/or the environment, the most they would receive was a verbal warning and probably a negative counseling on their first attempt. If they were a student, the school they attend may choose to suspend the student if they felt necessary. However, if destruction of property and/or injury, or even death to another individual was factored, then the minor would be placed in juvenile detention center for up to a year, and their school could choose to expel them. If it was an adult, they would be in prison for up to 3 years depending on the severity of the crime. 𝗂𝐲𝗵𝗃 had also taught many current pro-heroes. Their reputation was fairly high in the public, and was wildly registered as the program you must send your kids to if you want them to become heroes. There were many youth hero programs all around the nation to make up for the high registration rate. Each installation only had 30 or so children in the program at once. And as the oldest children age 12 leave the program, the youngest ones age 6 would be accepted into the program. 𝗂𝐲𝗵𝗃 consisted of one big classroom and an indoor pool. The staff consisted of roughly 3 teachers and 3 heroes. Pro-heroes were often invited to give speeches, classes, and demonstrations, and to supervise students in activities. They were paid, but many refused and instead did it for free. Izuku paid close attention. As 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 gave him a quick tour of the place, he noticed the map tab of the screen now displayed a perfect 3D map of the schoolhouse. At the end of the tour, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 led him to the classroom. And here's where y'all meet your friends for the next 6 years. Are you ready? Izuku nodded, swallowing thickly. Oh, and put your badge on its identification that you're now officially a part of the 𝗂𝐲𝗵𝗃 program. After Izuku proudly pinned the badge onto his shirt, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 gave him a confident smile and a thumbs up. Y'all be fine, Izuku-kun. They are all very nice children. Izuku nodded meekly and braced himself as 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 opened the door to a sunny green field full of laughing children running around. Izuku froze. He cranked his neck to check the ceiling, which was a cloudless sky so real you wouldn't think there was a ceiling at all. Genji-sensei, the new students here, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 called out to a male teacher, standing on a swing attached to a giant oak tree. Many children surrounding him were trying to drag him down from the swing. Genji-sensei perked up when he heard his name. Then he snapped his finger, and the room returned to an ordinary classroom. Wait here, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 whispered to Izuku as she shut the door. Izuku paced back and forth outside the doorway, wringing his hands together nervously as the reluctant shuffling of the children and the sound of chairs scraping the floor filled his ears. Now, well, continue. After we introduced the new student came Genji-sensei's voice. New student is here. One kid shouted, I heard it's a boy. I heard it's a girl. Is he cute? What's his quirk? Can he fly? Oh, I want to see someone fly. Class, calm down. Y'all see in a second, 𝗵𝘃𝗵𝐺 called out in Izuku's direction. Izuku-kun, are you ready? Izuku nodded. Despite having no one around to see it, he took a deep breath as he placed his hand on the door handle. With heart pumping loudly against his chest, he slid the door open and stepped through the door with straightened back and head held high. Mama always told him that no matter how scared he was, if he walked like he got this, he would succeed. He made his way to the blackboard with his eyes staring directly forward without looking at his classmates. He turned around and scrawled his name on the board. Why don't you introduce yourself? Anything you want the class to know about you. Shimura-sensei said. When he finished, 𝐒𝐭𝐚𝐲 squeaked. As he faced the class 𝗵𝗲 name, as his voice got caught up in his throat. When he took a good look of his classmate Gola, what is this? He thought this means these people have quests to offer. Gola's voice replied in his mind. Izuku stared wide-eyed at three of his classmates, who had an exclamation mark floating above their heads. How to I accept these quests? The quest notification will appear when you near them. Izuku-kun, Shimura-sensei's voice snapped Izuku out of his thoughts. I'm sorry. Roman 2 spaced out. The class giggled at Izuku's frantic stuttering. His face burned in embarrassment. As he finished his introduction quickly, 𝗵𝗲 name is Midoriya Izuku. 6 years old and from Aldera Elementary School. My favorite hero is All Might be, but my idol is Gentle. The class murmured. Who's Gentle? Never heard of him. Gentle is the hero who saved my life and gave me hopes for my dream, Izuku explained. And here came the bomb. 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏. Izuku had to force himself not to look down in fear of rejection. The class looked surprised, but they didn't look at him with pity in their eyes or contempt. It was just slight surprise. That was it. Everyone told me I can't be a hero because 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏, but Gentle was the first person who told me I can, and I will. He made me feel powerful. He gave me confidence and a reason to live. That's why he's my hero. The class was quiet, and there was understanding in some children's eyes. After a moment, Shimura-sensei coughed. That's great to hear, Izuku-kun. I'm glad you're able to find that person in your life. The one who inspires you, motivates you, and is the reason behind your strength. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share, like hobbies? What do you do in your free time? Izuku felt his face heat up when he realized he had been talking about Gentle the entire time, and not a single thing about himself. I'm sorry. He scratched his head awkwardly as the class laughed, not a jeering laughter, but a light-hearted laugh. My hobbies are collecting hero cards and catching bugs. That's all. Thank you, Izuku-kun. Your seat is between Henshin-kun and Manami-kun. There was only one empty seat. A boy with short orange hair and large curious eyes was on the left of it, and a girl with messy hair hiding her face was on the other side. Interestingly, she had an exclamation mark above her head. To be safe, Izuku observed as he made his way down the rows. Observe 1 Namamano Henshin LV5. Observe 1 Aba Manami LV8. When he settled himself in between the two of them, he received the quest notification. Quest alert. Side quest: A Precious Smile. Description: Aba Manami is a girl with lots of issues troubling her. Be a hero to her and make her smile. Time limit: none. Reward: 100 exp. 1 reputation point. Failure: a hero should never allow themselves to fail except decline. This was the first quest Izuku received. Of course, he had to accept. The first option was selected as soon as his thought was received by the system. Aba's head was bowed, but Izuku could see her peeking at him through her bangs. When she was caught staring, she quickly smoothed out her hair in an attempt to act casual and cover up her eyes in the process. Hi, I'm Izuku. You must be AI mean Manami-kun. Izuku quickly corrected himself. He wasn't supposed to know her full name, yet. Nice to meet you. He offered a hand, which Aba took in a loose grip. Nice to meet you, she whispered. How old are you? 8. No wonder her level is so high, Izuku wondered. But then how come Yama-sensei's level is only 5? So I guess you've been here for a while. I hope we can be friends. Maybe you can tell me what IHP is like later, Izuku added. When she didn't respond, if you feel like it. After a while, Aba nodded. Izuku felt a tap on his shoulder. Namamano took back his hand and whispered, don't mind her, she's always like that. She's also quirkless. Izuku paled, a horrible feeling rising in his stomach. He thought of all the times he tried to make new friends, and would later see someone telling them he was quirkless. Later, the new friend he made would stop talking to him. He hated when people tell others that. Especially people he was trying to be friends with. It made him feel like they were trying to say he's quirkless, so don't be friends with him. Before he could hold back, Izuku blurted out, it's none of your business. If Manami-kun doesn't want me to know, then she won't tell me. It's rude to speak for her. Izuku was inwardly freaking out as Namamano's face turned red, then paled. He rarely if ever talked to someone like this. The few times he tried standing up to Kaken always ended up with him being a crying mess by the end of the day. He should have watched what he say, especially to someone he met for the first time. A quirkless kid like him shouldn't act so snarky towards someone with a quirk. Fearing Namamano's reactions, Izuku avoided looking at anything but the blackboard for the rest of the class. After the teachers explained to them their schedule for the day, their break continued. Genji-sensei, whose level turned out to be 25, turned the room into nature once again. As soon as words of permission left Shimura-sensei's lips, the active ones broke into a run across the clear horizon. The more reserved ones stayed in their own little groups, while the remaining children were by themselves. Izuku hurried after Aba, who sat down on one of the swings. He flopped down on the swing next to her and began, hey. Aba didn't respond. I'm really sorry for what Henshin-kun said today. I'm sure he didn't mean it, so don't take it to heart. Aba was fiddling with her hair as she kicked the swing into motion. After a while, she murmured, I'm used to it. He's just an idiot. He always says things without thinking. See. She pointed at someone. It was Namamano. He rushed at them with both hands behind his back. Izuku stilled hands, clutching the ropes tightly. His fear grew. With every step the other boy took towards them. For a moment, the image of Kaken overlapped with 𝗵𝗲. Their form enlarged, and their mouth cracked into a gaping, thirsty grin. Izuku shut his eyes. When the beast arrived, 𝗵𝗲, he heard it was a timid, shy voice, the completely opposite of what he had envisioned. "I'm sorry for being so rude to you." Izuku snapped, his eyes open in surprise. He wasn't expecting an apology of all things. "I wasn't thinking when I said that I didn't mean to offend you. Please forgive me." 𝗵𝗲 bowed low, body quivering slightly. "What is it this time?" To Izuku's surprise, 𝗬𝗲 sighed. "It better not be your lunch. Your mom's meat buns sure are delicious. But I'm not eating your lunch again and leaving you to starve. Stop punishing yourself physically every time you offend someone." "That's not it." 𝗵𝗲 straightened himself and brought his hands to the front, opening his palm carefully, revealing a 4-leaf clover. "It's my treasure. I've had it for years and always kept it beside me as a lucky charm. And giving this to you to prove it to you that this will be my last time offending you." "Don't give it to me." 𝗬𝗲 glanced at Izuku. It was the first time Izuku saw her eyes. They were large, beautiful pink eyes with ringed pupils. "It's our new student who you angered today, not me. So if you want to apologize, go to him." Izuku suddenly grew anxious when the attention shifted to him. Before his imagination could run wild with this situation, 𝗵𝗲 bowed low and presented the 4-leaf clover to him. "I'm sorry, Midoriya-kun, please forgive me. I promise I'll think before I talk next time. You don't have to just accept it." 𝗬𝗲 shook her head and actually chuckled. "He won't leave you alone unless you accept his apology, okay?" Then Izuku let out a dry laugh and took the 4-leaf clover. "Ping, you have received 4-leaf clover luck 4 for 30 minutes. Simply store the item into the inventory and equip it to use it." All the noise dimmed as Izuku focused on the notification that popped up the moment his fingers touched the plant. "I thought I can only put non-living items inside." Izuku thought Gola's voice replied instantly in his head. "Yes, but this item has a special effect, which makes it a disposable item. That means it's something you can use once and throw away." Any items in the 4 categories: costume, gadgets, disposable items, and mist can be stored inside the inventory. Izuku willed the notification to close, then examined the little lucky charm. It was amazing how something so small and easily overlooked could be this powerful. He marveled at it for a couple minutes, more, then shoved it into his pocket, hiding his hand from plain view and storing it into his inventory to conserve its condition. So 𝗬𝗲 began. "Yes, it was then that Izuku noticed the absence of 𝗵𝗲, that gentle hero you mentioned earlier. You said he saved you and supported your hero dream." "Yes, he did. He didn't even know me. Yet he put his believed me that I can become a hero." "Can you tell me?" 𝗬𝗲 began, fiddling with her hair again. She bit her lips, hesitated, then said in a voice so quiet Izuku almost didn't hear it, "Where do you find someone like that?" "Someone like gentle?" "Yes, someone who tells you you can become a hero. I believe in you, things like that." "Where do you find such a person?" 𝗬𝗲 tilted her head, and Izuku got a clear view of her face. Her watery eyes were filled with uncertainty and hopelessness as they fixated on Izuku. With an insurmountable amount of force and resolution, her entire body trembled, and her grip on the ropes attached to the swing tightened. Izuku didn't know what to say. He had met Gentle by chance. Was there a second Gentle in this world? If there was, how to find them? The silence dragged on as Izuku wrecked his brain for something to say. "Anything. I am right here." Somehow those words were able to form from his blank slate of mind. "I will be your Gentle." "What do you mean?" Izuku placed a hand on his chest, unwavering gaze meeting 𝗬𝗲's eyes. This was the only thing he thought of, and he just had to go with the flow. At this moment Gentle's voice whispered in his ears, and Izuku let the words flow out of his lips. "𝗵𝗲, I believe in you. Whatever dream you have, I believe you can achieve it. Don't ever stop trying. Remember, even if there's a very small chance of success, it's still a chance. You can't say something is impossible without taking every opportunity to give a go at it. You have to believe in yourself and tell yourself, I can do it." 𝗬𝗲's eyes was overflowing with tears at the end of Izuku's encouragement. He couldn't find a Gentle for her, but he could become her Gentle. Just like what Gentle did to him, he would now pass down the wise words that motivated him to another quirkless person in need. "And know you're lying." Why? 𝗬𝗲's body shook violently with each sob that escaped her quivering lips. "You don't even know me. Why would you?" "Because you look like a hero to me," Izuku whispered, "and I'd hate to see you give up your dream." Thank you," 𝗬𝗲 choked out as tears streamed down her face. She covered her face in her hands, head bowed low so her hair could cover her tears. Izuku thought back to yesterday, when he wanted to bury his face into Gentle's shoulder and cry to his heart's content. 𝗬𝗲 must be feeling the same way. The fire that burned in the pit of his stomach, the way his heart sped up at the words, and his vision brightened, the adrenaline that coursed throughout his body and made him feel like he could punch through a wall if he wanted to, and the urge to hold on to someone and bawl his eyes out. So he rose from his swing and knelt down in front of 𝗬𝗲. He touched her shoulder gently to make sure he didn't scare her, and that she was all right with physical contact, and wrapped his arms around her, letting her bury her face into the crook of his neck. and allowing her sobs to be muffled by his shirt. After a while, the sobbing girl hesitantly wrapped her arms around him. They stayed like that for a while, not caring what others would think. If they saw the scene, Izuku had dealt with worse kinds of reactions. So this was no biggie, he supposed 𝗧𝗵𝗃 had too, judging from her reactions. When the scenery around them returned to their normal spacious classroom, signaling the end of break, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 loosened her hold and Izuku leaned back. She glanced away when Izuku asked, "Are you feeling better?" "Yeah," her voice was a little rough. "Thank you, Izuku, thank you for being there for me." A warm feeling blossomed in Izuku's chest, causing his lips to upturn involuntarily. "You're welcome. You don't mind me calling you Izuku, do you?" No. I don't mind. What about you? Do you mind me calling you 𝗵𝗃 no Manami?" smiled. It was a beautiful smile, like the first rays of sunlight that peeked through the curtains on an early morning. Not at all. During the next class, the teachers showed them a documentary on heroes and quirks. It was a film Izuku had watched so many times. If he watched any more, he was sure his eyes would bleed. While all the other students were giving their full attention to the screen, Izuku chanted 𝗧𝗪𝐴's name 3 times in his mind. On the 3rd time, the metallic little cyclops popped into existence, the bacon hanging out of its wide mouth inches away from Izuku's nose. Whoa. Izuku jerked back in his seat, arms flailing, and hitting the boy behind him. The wolf-eared boy hissed at him as he clutched his bleeding nose in pain. "I am so sorry." The boy ignored his profuse apology and stormed his way out of class. The murmurs died down when Shimura-sensei made her annoyance shown. 𝗧𝗪𝐴 had a nasty smirk on its face when Izuku glared at him. "It's a pleasure to see you again, master." It sneered, and Izuku wanted so desperately to punch that Fano. What was he thinking? That was something Kaken would do. He had to control himself. "Do you even need to eat?" Izuku grumbled. Instead, in his mind, do humans need cookies to survive? No, then why do humans eat cookies? Why do humans sing, dance, watch movies, do so many things that aren't necessary for survival? Izuku had no answer for that. The answer is because it brings them joy. Another slice of juicy bacon materialized in thin air, and 𝗧𝗪𝐴 snatched it inside its mouth with its long tongue. If humans are allowed to do things for their enjoyment, why am I not allowed? Why do I get questioned for enjoying myself? Don't you think that's unfair? Ugh, yeah, you're right, sorry. Izuku bowed his head in shame. The conversation curved downward so quickly he couldn't react in time. He could only go with what 𝗧𝗪𝐴 said. "Simon, master, don't look so down. You just made your first achievement. You should be proud of yourself." Look, the profile screen appeared and 𝗧𝗪𝐴 tapped a crown icon next to Izuku's name that wasn't there before. A new screen override the first one, showing a bookshelf with dozens of locked trophies. The first one was unlocked, and the nameplate said "The Lover Cool." Izuku marveled at the sight. The trophy looked so real, almost like he could touch it. What does it do? Each title comes with a quirk. You cannot use your unlocked titles and quirks until you die and restart from a save point. At that moment, you're allowed to choose a title, and when your game restarts, you will be gifted with that quirk and any additional effects that comes with it. So what's the quirk for the lover? 𝗧𝗪𝐴 tapped the trophy, and a description popped up. It read, "The lover can be unlocked by charming a person. It comes with a quirk charm. Anyone who sees your face will fall in love with you and do anything you say. It doesn't affect those who are already in love with you. Fall in love." Izuku pouted. Whenever someone mentioned love, there were always kissing and touching in inappropriate places involved. Izuku found them gross. He didn't want to taste other people's drool. "Thank you very much." "No thank you. Are you sure you can gain your first quirk this way?" "I'm sure." Plus, Izuku frowned. "I can only use it when I die, right? I really don't want to die." "Okay, whatever you say, master. I do agree though. No kissing, it's gross having to taste others' blood." Izuku glanced at 𝗧𝗪𝐴's sharp gleaming teeth. Yeah, he could imagine why. "So how do I make a save point, master?" "Just simply call me, and I will save the game for you." Game is saved automatically after quest completions and achievements. Oh, okay. Also, I gained a reputation point. Does that mean I can open the bazaar? Now see for yourself. Master 𝗧𝗪𝐴 selected the bazaar tab, and a wide range of items displayed. Quirks, costumes, gadgets, disposable items. Misc 1 punch 10 Dis PTS digital goggles 17 PTS Devil's Mask 50,000 PTS changes appearance at will. Cataclysm 1,000 PTS destroys this planet. PS4 1 in PTS time travel 70 PTS invisible body suit 5D PTS swim speed 6 time travel microwave 13 PTS Death Note X1 page 50,000 PTS fake ID 500 PTS shapeshifting 70 PTS smash guard steel toed running boots 3D PTS speed 3 STR4 Elmore ghost motorbike 10 PTS remove around X1 1 PTS Petit Force X1 300 PTS Shadow Manipulation 5000 PTS SAP Defense Gloves 3D PTS STR4 Pistol Beretta M95A PTS Red Blue Potion X1 500 PTS Restore half of HPMP Toothbrush 10 PTS Mind Reading 5000 PTS Airwalkers 20 PTS Portal Sticker Set PSS 3 on PTS Voice Bubblegum X1 Piece 200 PTS and 1 PTS. And there were much more. The only thing Izuku could buy with the 1 point he had in his possession was a piece of lifesaver candy. Even a regular toothbrush that didn't have any unique attributes cost 10 points. Izuku could only exit the page with a disappointed sigh. Well, at least he now knew that helping people solve their emotional problems could earn him reputation points. Before Izuku closed the screen completely, he checked his profile stats: name Midoriya Izuku, title none, LV2 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗔𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗏 required X doubles every level, HP 150150005 MP 150150005 age 6 quirks none, SDR 35 being average for your age, def 4 speed 4 dex 4 attribute points 1 luck 5 changes every day. Rep points 1 techniques observe LV2 78150 observe others stats MP usage 5 MP per use. More information will reveal as this technique levels up. Izuku noticed that his luck had gone down from 8 to 5. Nothing horrible had happened today, so he guessed 5 meant average. He hoped he would never go under that. Who knew what could happen? He also earned 1 attribute point, which he added to strength without hesitation. On the inventory page, an extra slot appeared, making it 56. Izuku then closed the screen and spent the rest of the films chatting with 𝗏𝗏. Apparently 𝗏𝗏 had a lover who was the 𝗏𝗏 for another digitalization. When Izuku asked if there were other people in this world with digitalization, 𝗏𝗏 replied with only 1 game of life is allowed per world, otherwise it will mess up the equilibrium. Izuku didn't know what that last word mean, but when he was about to ask, the film was over, and it was lunchtime. One of the highlights of 𝗵𝗃 was that they allowed students to experience real-life hero work and use their quirks in public under the supervision of pro heroes. Every week they allowed students to form into groups and walk around the street searching for opportunities to help people with or without the usage of their quirks. They could also buy lunch if they haven't brought any. To become a hero, what do you have to do? 𝗓𝗵𝗧𝗍 cupped a hand around her ear. The class sang in unison. A good deed every day. That's right, you don't have to fight villains to become a hero. There are many types of heroes, and most heroes deal with search and rescue missions. Many more deal with everyday issues. A hero isn't measured by age, experience, or appearance. It's by what you do, and how you do it. As usual today, we're going to separate you into groups of 5. Each of you will be led by a clone of 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗃. The door opened, and a tall, slender man walked in. He had a scary appearance, large, soulless, blank eyes behind a pair of glasses, exposed teeth and arms, so thin his skin appeared to be tightly wrapped around his bones with no flesh in between, very much like a skeleton that walked right out of a horror movie. His legs appeared to be prosthetic, making Izuku wonder about what he had been through. When the man's blank eyes glanced at Izuku, he couldn't help but cower into his seat. Don't be afraid of him, 𝗵𝗏𝗏 whispered, leaning into Izuku's personal bubble. He's as soft as a puppy. You should have seen that other time we caught him singing in the showers. It was 𝗵𝗏𝗏 henshin. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 flinched. He backed away from Izuku inch by inch, until his head was back in his personal space. Then he squeaked, yes sensei, perhaps you'd like to accompany me next time? I go to karaoke, I'm sure we'll have a splendid time pouring our souls into songs. And no thank you sensei. 𝗵𝗏𝗏 made himself as small as possible, refusing to meet ectoplasm's eyes. No, I insist. Ectoplasm gave a crooked grin. Even those used to his presence involuntarily shuddered. If possible, 𝗵𝗏𝗏 curled even more into himself. Stop messing with the kids, ectoplasm sensei. 𝗓𝗵𝗏 laughed and hit the bony man lightly on the shoulder. Anyway kids, today we have invited a new hero to tag along. This got the class into a heated chatter. Izuku imagined All Might walking through the door. He knew it was very unlikely, since they couldn't have a famous hero walking with them on the street that was just begging to be ambushed by fans and calling for the media's attention. So it must be an average hero like the Waterhose couple, or a new hero. Let us welcome Eraserhead sensei. The door slid open slowly, and a young man around Gentle's age dragged his body through the door. He had shaggy dark hair that fell slightly over his dark eyes, and was dressed in all black clothing. Strange white strips of fabrics wrapped around his neck like a scarf. All the students hitched a breath at his grim appearance. Izuku had never seen a hero looking so gloomy before. One student tried to break the silence. I know. It's called being emo. I read it on the internet, he exclaimed, jumping out of his seat and floating in the air. The hero Eraserhead responded by glaring at the boy, as if an invisible wind was blowing at him. His hair began to float, every single strand sticking up against gravity. His eyes also started glowing red. The boy who was floating previously suddenly lost control of his quirk and dropped onto his seat heavily. The class went dead silent. Even a pin drop could be heard. Eraserhead was the one who broke the silence. My quirk allows me to temporarily erase others' quirk, he drawled. If I see any of you brats using your quirks inappropriately, or using them for something that can be accomplished without the need to flaunt your powers, then I won't hesitate to erase your quirk. Are we cleared? No one made a sound. Everyone simply nodded. The tense atmosphere lasted until everyone was separated to their groups. Some complained about not being with their friends, some didn't care. Izuku was in a group with Minami, a pink girl, and fortunately for him, the remaining 2 of his quest targets. They were a blonde, dazzling kid and a purple-haired boy with bangs so long they covered his eyes completely. When Izuku circled up with his teammates, He received the quest notification quest alert side quest fear of quirk 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐻𝐢𝐻𝐻 description 𝐒𝐻𝐢𝐻𝐢𝐻𝐻 has some traumatizing experiences with his quirk. Help him get over his fears of his quirk time limit. None reward 200 exp 1 reputation point failure. A hero should never allow themselves to fail except decline. Quest alert side quest fear of quirk 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗍 description 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗍 sees his quirk as a dangerous evil power. Help him realize that his power is nothing to be feared of time limit. None reward 200 exp 1 reputation point failure. A hero should never allow themselves to fail except decline. Izuku accepted both quests without hesitation. Alright everyone, now that we're a team, we should get to know each other's first. That will make us easier to work together. The pink girl started. Aba tucked a strand of hair behind her ears, so her vision wasn't blocked. Aoyama rested his chin in both hands as he fluttered his long eyelashes. Shinsu wasn't looking at anyone in particular. Not that Izuku could tell. I'll go first. Ashido Mina. Just call me Mina. My quirk is acid. It's really strong and can melt your skin, so be careful not to be too close to me when I use it. Everyone in the group shuddered at her description. Your next new kid. Mina pointed at Izuku, who jumped out of his seat when his name was called. Yais. My name is Midoriya Izuku and I'm quirkless, but I'll do my best to help. As soon as he finished, Aoyama began in a flippant tone. Bonjour. My name is Aoyama Yuuga. My quirk is naval laser, and I can shoot laser out of my belly button. Izuku had to hold back his urge to flash out his notebook and jot down all the possibilities of such a quirk. Be traumatic. It was Manami's turn next. Aba Manami and I'm quirkless, but I'll try my best. When it was the turn of the last member of their group, Shinsu merely murmured 𝗬𝗪𝗓𝗍 before turning away, not looking at them. What's your quirk? Brainwashing. What does it do? Can you control people? Izuku asked. Pretty much. Izuku understood why he would think of it as an evil power. After all, it was the type of power a villain in a superhero manga would possess. Izuku could imagine the type of comments others had made regarding Shinsu's quirk, and these must have given the other boy a negative view on it. Sure, his power was evil, but it could also be used in many positive ways, like in a situation where someone was about to jump off the roof. Shinsu could easily control them to step down, then talk them out of it when they were no longer on the verge of death. A power like this could minimize so much damage in the usual hero fights and save the heroes so much time and money. How could Shinsu not realize it? Izuku had to let him know. Even without the quest, Izuku would make Shinsu realize that his quirk wasn't evil. Like with Aba, Izuku would hate to see Shinsu become a hero, and yet still not using his quirk. The heroes would lose a major advantage if that happened. But now wasn't the time. Izuku would just have to wait until they have a time to themselves, so he could have a one-on-one conversation with Shinsu. Everyone was given 5 minutes to get to know their group. Then they were led onto a bus parked by the entrance. According to Shimare-sensei, they would be taken to a more peaceful part of the town for their activity. The bus ride was short and anything but quiet. Izuku noticed Eraserhead rubbing his temples in desperation. Of course, a moody, dark, and emo, whatever that meant, person wouldn't enjoy such clamor. While they were on the bus, Izuku received another quest notification. Quest alert, daily quest, daily good deed description. No matter if you're the symbol of peace or the big bad boss, everyone has to start somewhere. Begin your first step to a hero by doing something good each day. Status 0. 1 completed. Time limit 115959. Reward 100 exp failure. Yao never achieve your dream if you don't make daily commitments except decline. He was given 12 hours, which was until midnight, to do something good that shouldn't be too hard. And even though there was no reputation point rewarded, Izuku wasn't disappointed, because he didn't want to be a hero for rewards. He wanted to become a hero like Gentle, like All Might, who saved people simply because they needed help, not because they would be rewarded for saving that person. When they arrived, Ectoplasm created 6 clones, 1 for each team, while the teachers were huddled together discussing plans. Namamano's group went up to Izuku. One of the kids, the wolf-eared boy who sat behind Izuku, snickered. I can't believe it. 2 quirkless kids, 2 with dangerous quirks, and a nobody with a useless quirk, all in one team. You guys are in for a hell of a day. Hey, Ahagami, stop insulting my team. Mina was quick to defend them. Besides, your werewolf quirk is just as dangerous as mine. At least I can control who I bite, but you can't control who you accidentally splashes your acid onto. Mina wasn't backing down. Oh yeah, is that a challenge? The werewolf boy crouched down, baring his canines and growling. Mina slouched with hands positioned like claws in front of her chest, hissing. At that moment, a vein-throbbing hand landed on their respective heads. Shimare-sensei popped in between them with an angry look. Stop fighting this instant, or both you and your teams are staying on the bus while everyone else participates. Mina and the werewolf boy didn't say anything, but they straightened their postures. When Shimare-sensei left, he threw Mina a dirty look and stalked away. Namamano hurried to apologize. I'm so sorry For what he just did, 𝗬𝗲𝗄 just has a habit of insulting everyone he meets. He didn't mean it, hey. It's fine, don't worry about it. Mina grinned and patted him on the back. We aren't affected by it, right guys? Everyone nodded. Izuku said, yeah, we're all good, no harm done. 𝗵𝗲𝗄 looked relieved. He apologized once more before returning to his team. 𝗬𝗲𝗄 stuck out his tongue at them before wrapping an arm around 𝗵𝗲𝗄, jokingly giving him a headlock. 𝗬𝗲𝗄's always making fun of people, everyone's already used to it. And no one took his insults seriously, so just ignore him, and y'all be fine, okay? Thanks, Izuku nodded. Besides, there are a few more quirkless kids in our class who are friends with 𝗬𝗲𝗄. He'll be nicer once he gets to know you. I'm sure we'll do just fine, right? Mina asked casually. Like Sensei said, there are tons of ways to help people without using our quirks at this time. The teachers were done with their hushed whispers. Clones of ectoplasm went to their respective groups. Izuku was amazed at ectoplasm's hero costume. He looked hulky and nothing like his original self, except his exposed teeth. To his surprise, Eraserhead also came to their group. What are you doing here, Eraserhead-sensei? Mina wondered to keep an eye on our new kid here. Eraserhead groaned. Please stay out of trouble to the best of your capabilities and make my job easier. Roman 3, promise. I won't cause trouble, Izuku insisted. I'll see to it. The groups were then led to different sections of the area. It was lunchtime, so the streets were filled with people, but not crowded enough for everyone to have a hard time keeping up. Class session officially started. Izuku's group began on the lookout for potential targets. Mina walked in the front, loudly describing her past experiences in different types of situations. Izuku and his other 3 teammates trailed after her. The 2 pro-heroes followed behind them in a distance, watching their backs and making sure nothing went wrong. As they were searching, the 4 IB kids all took out their respective lunches. Izuku paused with his lunchbox in hand. Ah, bad idea, Midoriya-kun. Mina gave a nervous laugh. We don't stop to eat, so we always bring something simple like rice balls or sushi. Izuku felt his anxiety hit him again. He panicked, almost dropping his lunchbox. WW, what do I do here? Mina handed Izuku one of her rice balls. You can have one. Before Izuku could accept or refuse, a half of a yakisoba bread was pushed onto his hand. Sharing is caring, Manami mumbled with her mouth full. Seeing the girls taking the initiative, the boys weren't far behind. Aoyama gave Izuku a cheese stick. It's very healthy, and Shinsu offered Izuku half of his tuna sandwich. You're not allergic to fish, are you? To be surrounded by so much kindness, Izuku felt that undeniable warm feeling in his chest. Once again, his eyes got a little teary, but no one commented on it. Thank you, everyone, he mumbled, voice dry. As they continued their search, while eating lunch, they found their first target. It was an old lady who dropped her purse, but couldn't bend down due to her back issues. She was holding a hot pink walking stick that really stood out in the distance. The floating exclamation mark had appeared when Izuku was around 20 feet away, and he mentally took note of the required distance. Seeing her struggles, the group rushed to her side. But Izuku got there first. He had a feeling everyone else ran a tad bit slower on purpose, in order for him to arrive first. Here you go. Izuku offered the purse to the old lady. Ah, thank you. The old lady accepted her purse with a trembling hand, her other hand on the walking stick. What would I do without you young heroes? Ha ha ha, the old lady chuckled as she patted Izuku on the head. Well, I have to go meet up with my granddaughter. See you kids later. Quest daily, good deed completed. Next one in 113647 reputation point. 1 note, continue helping people to earn more reputation point and exp for the next 20 minutes or so. Izuku had earned almost 10 reputation points and a dozen exp by helping people. Many of these situations didn't have a quest alert. Izuku noticed only the more important ones that would take longer to complete would have a quest notification. Most of the problems his team encountered didn't require any of them to use their quirks. Once Mina tried melting down an entire tree to save a cat that was stuck, but was fortunately stopped by Eraserhead, who pointed out the existence of a bird nest higher up in the tree. Heroes also need a good situational awareness. He had said you don't want to save someone, but have your actions indirectly cause the injury or worth death of another civilian due to your neglect. As they walked into a shopping street, Izuku noticed a familiar mop of furry silver hair, twitching wolf ears, and a wagging bushy tail. 𝗬𝗲𝗄 noticed him as well as he quickly made his way over with a smirk. How many people have you helped, I wonder? 𝗵𝗲𝗄 and the rest of his team caught up with him with an exasperated groan. Not again, he mumbled as he ran his fingers through his hair, his neatly trimmed bangs sticking to his forehead with sweat. We've already helped 15 people, each with different incidents. 𝗬𝗲𝗄 continued to boast, hands on her hips. Mina retorted with her head held high. So what? That doesn't make you any better than us. Just because you've been in the program a few weeks longer than we have doesn't mean you can pressure us with your experience, just as another stare down was about to occur. White strips of fabric shoot out from behind and wrapped around the two 𝗵𝗃 students, their limbs locked tightly. Against their sides, restricting their movements, Eraserhead trudged his way over. Stop this foolish argument. You're training to be heroes, and heroes don't fight against each others. But Sensei Eraserhead's eyes glowed red, and his hair began to float. The two kids gulped visibly. A second later, Eraserhead blinked, and the effect wore off. He released them, kneeling down and placing a hand on their shoulders. In a softer voice, he said, "Remember the moment you turned saving people into a competition? You're no longer heroes. What matters most isn't how many people you've helped or how much you've helped them. It's the simple fact that you've helped somebody in need. That is what makes a true hero." Both of them stared at the ground guiltily and murmured a quiet apology. Eraserhead stood up and folded his arms. "You two need to learn to get along now. As punishments for fighting during a class session, you two and your teams will work together for the remaining of this class period." What? A chorus of groans was the response, but a flash of red in Eraserhead's eyes, and the slightest movement of his hair shut everyone up. Izuku stayed in the back of his team as he observed the two teams' awkward reaction around each other. Most of them are okay with working with another team. It was Ogami's scowling face bearing canines and Mina's grumpy look in hands that leaked acid that put everyone on guard. Suddenly something, or rather someone, rammed into Izuku's back with an oof. Izuku fell forward and had to steady himself with Aoyama's shoulder to not faceplant. What was that? Groaning, Izuku turned to look at the pressure on his back, but only saw clothes, floating clothes, with an exclamation mark above it. Whoa. Loud sniffling came from the floating clothes, and Izuku felt a grip on his shirt. It then down to him that he was possibly seeing an invisible person for the first time in his life. Do you need help? 𝗵𝗃 grandma's lost 𝗬𝗧𝗏. The invisible girl sobbed loudly. This time Izuku didn't even pay attention to the notification. He vaguely remembered accepting it, as he had his whole focus on the wailing girl. The two 𝗵𝗃 groups gathered around her. The more experienced ones, who had probably dealt with this kind of situation, began shooting off questions that would help locate the grandma. But they were all ignored by the girl, who couldn't stop crying. We gotta do something," Mina exclaimed. But what? Ogami frowned. He watched as Aoyama handed the girl a cheese stick, which slid out of her slack grip as she continued to cry, shoving the blonde out of the way. Ogami crouched down in front of her with his head bowed. "Hey, look," his ears twitched. "Wanna feel my hair? It's pretty soft." That didn't seem to work. "Maybe she's a cat person," Namamano offered. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. His body began to twist and swirl, morphing into a tiny orange cat. Namaniko yowled and patted his way over to the crying girl and placed a kitty paw against her invisible leg. The girl stopped crying and shrieked. She backed up so fast Izuku almost fell over with her steel grip remaining on his All Might t-shirt. "Cats." And she continued screaming. "Hey Shinsu," Izuku called out to the purple-haired boy, who was currently petting a content Namaniko. "Can't you maybe control her and make her stop crying?" Shinsu nervously rubbed the back of his neck. "My quirk is scary. Instead of helping it'd probably scare her if I take control of her body, so I don't think that's a good idea." So that was what he was afraid of. "Then what else can we do?" Mina grasped her hair in exasperation, her horns knocking back and forth frantically. Izuku looked around. Everyone had a look of uncertainty on their face. The two pro-heroes were leaning against the wall, a few meters away, watching them silently. Izuku looked back at the quivering floating clothes next to him, and he made his decision, gently releasing her tight grip on his shirt. Izuku spread his hands in front of him, palms up. Look. The little flowery headband around the invisible girl's head tilted downward an inch, showing she was sparing Izuku a glance. "Nothing's in my hand." He squeezed both fists, and when he opened his left hand, a piece of lifesaver candy was sitting quietly on his clammy palm. The sobbing, paused whispers of Go Midoriya reached his ears as he closed his left hand around the candy and opened his right hand. The same lifesaver candy appeared on his right palm. He then closed both hands. "How many candies do you think I have, Tito?" Izuku grinned. He opened both hands to reveal them empty. "Check your pockets." The invisible girl stuffed both hands into the pockets of her skirt and pulled out a handful of lifesaver candies. "How secret," Izuku teased. And finally the crying ceased as the girl giggled. Aoyama Yuuga almost killed his father when his quirk first manifested. He had been standing on a chair and painting on the walls of his room when he felt a strange surge of heat developing in the pit of his belly. It was hot, uncomfortable, and he wanted to get rid of it. His father chose that moment to enter his room. Yuuga, turning to face his father, pushed the energy out of his belly button. A strong beam of blue laser shot out and hit his father in the stomach, tearing through the flesh and creating a gaping hole that forever haunted the young boy's mind. The force of the beam also threw the boy backwards, slamming his head against the wall and knocking him out. He had woken up in the hospital with multiple stitches on the back of his head, and his beautiful blonde hair, shaved off. His exhausted mother had appeared by his side. The moment he opened his eyes, it took him a while to decipher her frantic rambling and realize that his father had almost died on the surgery table. His father didn't blame him for what he had done, but Yuuga, traumatized by the experience, sworn to never use his power again. He didn't want to hurt anyone, nor hurt himself ever again. His head throbbed in phantom pain. Every time he thought back to the incident, the scar hidden deep among his thick blonde hair forever reminded him of his crime. For half a year, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 managed to refrain from using his quirk. But the heat in his belly was piling up, making him feel bloated and full. He lost his appetite and couldn't keep anything down. His weight dwindled significantly, and his change in appearance was worrying his parents. Even the other kids at kindergarten had noticed his shift in demeanor. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 talked less, ate less, sparkled less, and often spaced out during activities. Some nasty kids began teasing him for never showing his quirk. They called him quirkless loser, nobody, all sorts of names. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 learned to ignore them. But the heat in his belly was getting harder and harder to ignore, and the urge to let it all out was eating him away. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 was a ticking bomb. But no one noticed the signs. Every name thrown at him was a second closer to his impending explosion. And then one day, as to be expected, the countdown reached 0. When 𝗬𝗧𝗏 came to realization, he was lying face down on the ground, his body covered in cuts and scratches from the force that had apparently flung him backward. And he was facing the destruction of all the trees in a straight line directly in front of him. There was also a gnawing hunger in his stomach that he hadn't experienced for the past 6 months. All the kids around him had frozen in shock. Whatever toys they were playing with clattered onto the ground. Only then did the adults snap out of their stupor and began with a repair. But the damage was done. Nobody talked to 𝗬𝗧𝗏 anymore. After the incident, they acted like he wasn't there, like he wasn't a person worthy of their attention, like he was just a pebble on the street that people either stepped over or kicked to the side of the road. 𝗬𝗧𝗏's parents immediately found out the way their boy had been treated, and they quickly pulled him out of the kindergarten. The entire family moved to another city, so 𝗬𝗧𝗏 could start anew in a place where no one knew his past and the terror of his quirk. There hadn't been another incident ever since 𝗬𝗧𝗏 was still feeling the inflating heat in his belly. But it was easier to control now after his experience with it last time. There were still kids at school who believed the fact that he never showed his quirk must have meant he didn't have a quirk. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 had learned to ignore them. He still wasn't eating much, so his mother made sure what he did eat had enough nutrition and calories for his entire day. Things had been peaceful for the next few years. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 turned 6 and joined the youth hero program with the hopes that the teachers and heroes there would teach him how to control his quirk. The kids there were friendly. There were a few actual quirkless kids, but no one seemed to pick on them. Although there was this Agami boy who handed insults as if they were candies to everyone he comes across. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 had no issues getting along with everyone, even though he did get quite frustrated whenever Mina interrupted him when he tried to say something. He had gotten used to it and written that off as her being her usual brash and carefree self. He eventually made a few friends and began to sparkle more, gradually returning to his old self. Time flew past, and soon a new kid enrolled in 𝗵𝗃 Izuku, a green-haired, bright-eyed, quirkless boy. The first thing he did on his very first day was make 𝗬𝗏 smile, a stunt no one had ever been able to pull. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 continued observing in the back of the group. As their lunch activity began, 𝗵𝗃 seemed extremely eager to help others. Every time he brought a smile to another's face, an equally bright smile appeared on his own freckled face. His enthusiasm never lessened and only grew as time passed. Ironically, a quirkless boy was the one person in 𝗬𝗧𝗏's life that truly sparkled. Then they met an invisible girl who later told them her name was 𝗧𝗵𝗃 Toru. Everyone seemed equally amazed at seeing an invisible person for the first time. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 assumed that it was their first time, judging from their shocked expression. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and the others who had handled lost kids before asked her questions that would help them locate her missing grandma. But all efforts went down the drain as 𝗧𝗵𝗃 couldn't stop crying. She even refused his cheese stick. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 was offended. How could anyone in the world say no to the exquisite delicacy that was cheese and anything made of cheese? He felt a bit better when everyone else's attempts also ended up in failure. And then 𝗵𝗃 stepped up. Everyone watched curiously, trying to see what a quirkless boy can do. Look, 𝗵𝗃 showed her his empty hands. Nothing's in my hands. Then he closed both hands, and when he opened one, there was a lifesaver candy on his palm. For a second, 𝗬𝗧𝗏 thought 𝗵𝗃 might actually have a quirk, and from the looks on the others' faces, they were thinking the same thing. But on a second thought, it may just be a magic trick. After all, many magic tricks were so incredible you couldn't help but suspect that there was quirk usage involved in the act. Although there were tricks that actually did have quirk usage involved every day, there was media revealing a magician or two lying about absolutely no quirk involved in their magic tricks. So magicians nowadays had pretty much lost all trust from the public due to how many lies were revealed. Mina fired questions after questions at an increasingly uncomfortable 𝗵𝗃, while 𝗧𝗵𝗃 stuffed her mouth full with candies. It was strange watching candies disappear into thin air. If she wanted, she could probably be a great assistant for magicians. She just have to become completely invisible. Then she can make things float and disappear. All she want. How did you do that? Mina grabbed 𝗵𝗃's shoulders roughly and shook him back and forth. That's so cool. I thought you didn't have a quirk. That's BB, because 𝗵𝗃's eyes seemed to spin as he tried to speak without stuttering. Let him talk, Mina said 𝗬𝗏 as she patted the pink girl on the shoulder. 𝗵𝗃 finally learned how to breathe again. He steadied himself as he finally revealed his secret. It's just a magic trick 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏, and for a while I was afraid of people finding out, so I learned magic tricks to hide it. And people thought my quirk is to make things disappear. And appear. That's so cool. I've always wanted to learn magic tricks. But it never works for me cause everyone can see through everything. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 mumbled depressed. You can be a great assistant, Midoriya offered, and gave her a bright smile. 𝐒𝐭𝐴 perked up, surprised that someone else had reached the same conclusion as he had. Usually, he would be the only one to notice the things others ignored, because he was always observing, staying in the background and watching others interact. And that was another reason many treated him like an outcast, since he always suggested ideas that were so out of the blue, so unusual, that it seemed totally impossible at first glance, and were often rejected by his classmates. Since no one can see you fail, just assume the objects are floating by themselves, Midoriya explained. But then it would be cheating. You're not allowed to use quirks in a magic trick. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 huffed. Magic tricks can't be done without the trick. It's either tricking the audience with a trick, or with a quirk. Both are cheating. I believe the goal of a magic trick is to make people smile. It doesn't matter whether you use a quirk or not, my mama said. Sometimes you gotta make white lies that will do more good than bad. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 thought about that for a moment before grumbling. I guess you're right. Midoriya cracked a smile at that. Guys, can we stop wasting time? Here. Mina snapped around and rounded on 𝗵𝘃𝗏, angrily jabbing a finger into his chest. You idiot, now's not the time to bring that up. We're having a serious conversation here. 𝗵𝘃𝗏's shoulders sagged, and he mumbled, so 𝗵's not included in the we before Mina can retort. Ogami pushed her away with a glare. Back off from him, you alien queen. Who are you calling an alien queen? Mina screeched, the one hissing and spitting acid every time she talks to me. Who? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 turned away from the commotion and smashed his forehead against the wall. A shadow loomed over his face, giving him a sullen look. Grimacing, he prayed for their fight to end quickly and quietly. He hated fights and arguments. He was more of a pacifist and would rather take a step back and apologize, even when it wasn't his fault, just so he didn't have to deal with fights any longer. Gee guys. Hey guys. Midoriya tried to get their attention. Both heads turned towards him, throwing him a stink eye. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 was glad he wasn't on the receiving end of it. Let's fight later, okay? With his back towards 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏, he nudged his lips towards her discreetly. Fine. Mina spat. This isn't over. Ogami glared. Midoriya gave them a pointed look before turning to 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. Sorry, you have to see that. Let's start searching for your grandma. Do you remember where you last saw? And he was pushed over. Move. Ogami walked up to the girl. I have a better idea. Aba moved to help Midoriya get up, who seemed to sparkle as he gave her a bright smile, so bright 𝗬𝗧𝗏 almost saw glitters coating his form. You see, my quirk allows me to do anything a wolf can do, which means I have a strong sense of smell. I can find your grandma if you can give me anything that smells like her. 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏 rummaged through all the pockets on herself, but couldn't seem to find anything. I don't have anything. Have you touched her clothes or held her hand before she went missing? Ogami tried again. No, my grandma needs to walk using a cane. She gets better balance if she doesn't hold on to me. Wait, is her cane pink? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 asked the same time. Midoriya did. Yeah, how did you know? We met her earlier today, Midoriya exclaimed. She dropped her purse, and I picked it up for her. Oh, that means your hand should smell like her purse, Mina pointed out as she wiggled her eyebrows tauntingly at Ogami. Ogami made a disgusted look. I am not smelling your hand. Everyone snickered at the mental image. Stop laughing, you bastards. Ogami's face went up in flame, and his tail swatted around wildly. And stop thinking about it. Shinsu stepped up from his position by the wall and sneered at Ogami. You can either do it yourself, or I can make you do it. Oh ho ho, so you're gonna use your evil quirk on an innocent kid, huh? Someone from Ogami's team looked around sarcastically. Innocent kid where? And was rewarded with a heated glare from their team leader. I will use it if it's on you, Shinsu said. I reserve it for those who deserve it. Ogami's face darkened as he glared canines bearing. Shinsu stood his ground firmly. His messy purple bangs shrouded his eyes, but the rest of his face was stoic and indifferent. There seemed to be a sparkling string coming from both of their eyes and connecting in midair with sparks dancing off of it. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 shook his head to get rid of that image. His mother always said his imagination was his biggest weapon, but could also lead to his downfall if overused. The glaring contest ended as quickly as it began, with Ogami reluctantly accepting his fate, grumbling under his breath. The entire way he stalked up to an antsy Midoriya and yanked his hand up. Ogami sniffed the palm as quickly as possible and threw the hand down, waving at the air in front of his nose as if something reeked. So did you smell anything? Midoriya asked, hesitant. Yeah, sweat, urine, to which Midoriya spluttered in defense. Seaweed, fish, cheese, food on. And cranky old people, Midoriya glowed. Everyone waited as Ogami spun around, sniffing the air. He even got on all fours at one point and sniffed the ground and gagged. No one commented on that, not even Mina, because they knew Ogami would be so embarrassed he might refuse to help out anymore. After a while, Ogami pointed at a direction. and said it's that way. About 400 meters away, the two groups began making their way over. 𝗬𝗧𝗏 caught a glimpse of ectoplasm and 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗃 following them before they disappeared into the shadows. As they walked, Midoriya and Mina made small talks to 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳𝐻𝑒𝐻𝑒𝐻. Ogami and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 chatted in the front of the group, while the former sniffed the air every now and then to make sure the grandma didn't suddenly change directions. Yuuga, Shinsu, and Manami walked in silence between the two groups, and the rest of Ogami's team was in the very back. On their way there, the two teams spotted a few people who needed help with small tasks. Mina and Ogami were always the first ones to run up, with Midoriya following right behind them. Ogami helped break apart a dogfight, and the two owners thanked him gratefully. Mina helped a man melt the lock of his briefcase open when he lost the key, but needed the documents inside for a meeting. Midoriya comforted a kid who dropped his cheesecake takeout and couldn't stop crying in the end. The parents of the kid appeared with a new box of cheesecake in their hands and thanked Midoriya before leaving. Yuuga had to force himself not to drool over that cheesecake. He had wanted to visit that newly opened cheesecake factory for a long time, but he lived too far and his parents were too busy with work to take him over. He also didn't bring any money either, and it wasn't like he would buy it. If he did now, they had to focus on finding 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳𝐻𝑒𝐻e's grandma. Everything else had to wait. Next to the restaurant was a vacant building for rent. Yuuga briefly fantasized his family moving into this building so he could eat cheesecakes whenever he wanted, and only snapped out of it when everyone else paused to stare at him. After that little incident, they walked past a subway station and went under a bridge. According to Ogami, they were less than 50 meters away. Midoriya halted in his steps and pointed at something in the distance, yelling, "I found her." Yuuga followed his finger and found the old lady they had helped before, struggling to walk with her pink cane, her purse slipping off of her grasp and appearing to be on the verge of dropping again. Just then, a large burly man stumbled around a corner and ran up behind her. He yanked the purse out of her weak grasp, causing her to falter and drop onto her knees. "Give it back." The grandma struggled to get up, and a random person next to her helped her stand back on her feet. The robber was rushing towards the two teams with a sickening grin on his large face. Ogami and 𝗵𝗲𝗄 froze up. They were both standing a little to the side of Yuuga's vision, leaving him directly in the robber's line of sight. "Move out of the way, you little brats." The man brandished a knife and waved it around threateningly, "or I'll kill y'all." Yuuga couldn't move. He had never felt so afraid in his life. The closer the man was, the bigger his form seemed to be. He was so big and tall Yuuga's height didn't even reach his waist. His eyes locked up with the man's, and a wave of cold terror washed over his body. The ghostly sensation left him trembling and gasping for breath. His fear was a living creature writhing in his chest, clutching at his throat, cutting off his breath. The man was directly in front of him, as he ran like those trees at that time. If he shoot out his laser now, he could hit the man head on. It would be so fast the man wouldn't even be able to dodge. But the phantom pain returned to the back of his head, and Yuuga was reminded of the sensation of his head cracking open and the numbness after the surgery, memories of the gaping hole in his father's stomach, the blood all over the ground, and his classmates' horrified cold eyes flashed before him. Yuuga just couldn't do it. He didn't want to go through that again. It was bad enough showing his quirk in a classroom setting. He could only imagine what could happen if he hurt someone with it in public where everyone could see it. There would be nowhere to hide from the exposure. Moving away wouldn't erase the pictures that people would take and the rumors that would surely spread. But if he didn't do anything, his friends could get hurt or worse, killed. He was the only one with a long-range offensive quirk, so he had to do this. He had to use it. Yuuga tried to concentrate on the heat in his belly, but none gathered. They were scattered and refused to ball up at his belly button. The man was getting closer, and there was nowhere to run. Everyone was frozen in fear. And because Yuuga was such a coward, they were all going to die and be stabbed/killed, and blood would everywhere dripping, pooling on the ground, and his parents would be so sad and disappointed, and he wouldn't be able to be a hero. Well, how could he? One couldn't even stand up for himself and his friends. He was just a loser, a coward, a hero, one of nobody. A figure darted past Yuuga and moved protectively in front of Ogami and 𝗵𝗲𝗄, a flash of green. Midoriya, a quirkless boy, he was shaking from head to toe like an autumn leaf, trembling so much the air around him seemed to vibrate. And yet he stood his ground. He faced against a man almost 5 times his size. Despite being so obviously terrified, out of all of them, a quirkless boy was the first to move. He had no power, and he knew he couldn't win, and yet a feeling of self-disgust clawing his throat. Yuuga stared at Midoriya's back, and somehow the small stature of the shorter boy suddenly seemed so much bigger. His shoulders appeared wider, and his form gave Yuuga a sense of protection. And then the man arrived. The imagery form of Midoriya instantly collapsed under the overwhelming size of the robber. Yuuga, Midoriya, and everyone else could only stood with growing horror as the man drew back the blade and got restrained by white bandages. The fear and immobility remained even after 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗃 tied up the robber as tight as possible, making sure his arms were growing purple, and he was gasping for breath. In reality, the time it took for the man to get to them was only a few seconds, but to Yuuga it felt like hours. When 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗃 asked him if he was okay, Yuuga nodded in response. not trusting his voice, yet his tongue felt thick and heavy. And if he was to speak right now, his words would probably come out all jumbled and incoherent. Their lunch activity ended by the time 𝐎𝐻𝐻𝐼 reunited with her grandma. Ogami insisted that the credit should go to him since he contributed the most. But everyone else, Hyuga included, agreed that Midoriya was the MVP today, since if he hadn't made 𝐎𝐻𝐻𝐼 stop crying, they'd never get any information out of her. On their bus ride back, the other teams loudly shared their stories, while Hyuga and Ogami's team remained silent, except Mina and Ogami, who started bickering again. Obviously everyone was affected by the incident. Hyuga wondered briefly what the others were thinking at the moment. They didn't know the power of his quirk, so they probably didn't know he was in the perfect position to shoot the robber. But still, out of everyone, Midoriya was the one who overcame his fear and stood up. The others were probably also thinking how useless they were for being one-upped by someone without a means to defend himself. By the time they arrived at 𝐒𝐻𝐻, Hyuga was so deeply wallowed in his self-pity that he didn't remember how he got off the bus, or how he returned home. It wasn't until he was relaxing in his sparkling bubble bath, with a rubber duck clutched tightly in his hand, did he come back to reality. Lying back in the bathtub, Hyuga closed his eyes as he tried to remember the fear he felt today. He wanted to remember that feeling so he could get used to it and overcome it. That feeling would forever be ingrained in his body, reminding him of how he should start getting his acts together and stop being a petty little loser. If the heroes weren't here today, they would have died. And Hyuga would never forgive himself if he let his friends die when he could do something to prevent it. It was time for Aoyama Hyuga to stop being a coward and start becoming a hero next time. This happened. Hyuga would use his quirk as he daydreamed about a giant evil villain that looked suspiciously like the robber coming up to torment him and his friends, and his using his quirk to shoot a giant hole in the villain's stomach, and then being held a hero. Hyuga slowly fell asleep. Hours later, Hyuga woke up with a sneeze in a tub full of cold soapy water. Great. Now he was sick. Mama was crying when she picked him up at 𝐒𝐻𝐻. The moment they got off the bus, everyone visibly flinched as a hoarse cry split the air. Izuku. Mama threw down her bike and stumbled towards him with open arms, enveloping him in a bone-crushing hug. I was told that you were attacked. Are you okay? Are you hurt anywhere? How are you feeling? Do you need to see the doctor? And Mama, Izuku's heart gave a jolt as he took in Mama's face. Her eyes were red from crying, her lips cracked, and snot dripped down her nose and over the curves of her lips. Izuku didn't care how disgusting her face looked when he hugged her back, because his face probably didn't look any better as he wailed and blabbered gibberish. After what seemed like eternity, they finally broke apart. A quick glance around showed the other students interacting with their family in a distance to give them some space. The teachers then came up and reassured Mama that everything was fine and no one was hurt. Shamira and Genji-sensei apologized over and over again for putting them in danger. Eraserhead and ectoplasm stayed back to talk to the police about the incident. Mama looked like she wanted to yell at them, but she held her tongue and instead forgave them and thanked them for protecting him. Mama didn't let him ride his bike home that day because she was worried his legs were still jelly after being so scared by the scary man. She asked him many times what exactly happened. In his words, no matter how many times Izuku reassured her, she was still worried. It was then that Izuku made his decision. The moment they arrived home, Izuku sat Mama down on the couch. As he prepared his words, Mama, I have to tell you something. Mama froze up like how she usually did when expecting bad news. While on the phone, she grabbed his hands with both hands and cradled them gently. Tell me. Mama's listening. And so Izuku told her everything, leaving out his near-death incident and encounter with Gentle, since it would destroy her, and Izuku didn't want her to live with the knowledge that her son had almost committed suicide. While under her watch, she would blame herself forever for failing him and not being there for him. Mama didn't say a word as she listened. When Izuku finished talking, Mama pulled him into a hug, burying her nose in his fluffy hair. She murmured, I'm so proud of you, Izuku. Why, I didn't do anything. Izuku hugged her briefly. When he attacked us, I couldn't do anything. My friends could have died if not for Eraserhead-sensei. If only I wasn't so weak. Izuku, look at me. Mama cupped his cheeks tenderly and stared into his eyes. Her gaze was like an arrow on fire that bored into his very soul. In an extremely soft voice, she said, listen. You are not weak. In fact, you are strong, stronger than anyone I know, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Despite not having a quirk, you still stood up to protect your friends. What defines as strong is being able to overcome your fears. And you did just that. A physically strong person is useless if he can't be strong in the face of obstacles. Remember, Izuku, no matter how powerful you are, if you can't use that power during the times of challenging, then you're as good as powerless. But how can I face my fears without power? I need to become stronger fast. Mama chuckled, leaving Izuku more confused. Did he say something funny? Izuku, how old are you? 6. Do you really think this is the type of problem a kid your age should be worrying about? I don't know, Izuku, you're only 6. Mama laughed as she caressed his round cheeks, making Izuku pout. Whenever she did this, he always felt like a baby, and Izuku was not a baby anymore. Normal 6-year-olds don't worry about things like this. Enjoy Your childhood play games, make friends, have fun, leave the thinking to when you're older. For now, allow the heroes to do their job and protect you. That's what they're there for. But then how am I going to become a hero? If I don't start now, what are you saying? Mama tapped his nose, gently making him go cross-eyed. You're already a hero to me. Izuku felt heat rushing to his face. Besides, Mama smirked. The evil grin looked so wrong on her face. I'm sure 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐳𝐴 thinks the same way. I didn't expect my Izuku to be so good with girls. Mama Izuku whined. His face was definitely on fire. Now, I don't like them that way. Which way? Mama looked like a scheming fox, the face-sucking way that sent Mama in a round of laughter, while Izuku pouted, fuming silently. After a while, Mama calmed down. In all seriousness, though you have many years to get strong enough to be a hero with that game thingy, you don't have to go out of your way to become strong. Just go with the flow, do a good deed every day, help people when you can stack up experience points, and eventually you'll save up enough reputation points to buy a quirk or reach level 10 and gain a free quirk. No need to rush, just do it at your own pace. The way Mama put it made it sound so easy. Perhaps he was overreacting. Mama will go with you every day, 1 hour of quest hunting. How does that sound? Sounds great, Izuku cheered, raising his hands high in the air. Yay! Mama slapped his palms gently after seeing the last student walk out of the courtyard with their parents. Shimoda Aiko stifled a yawn as she stretched her joints, popping, sending pleasure down her spine. It had been a long and tiring day at 𝗵𝗃𝗃. The villain attack on the 2 teams of students near the end of the lunch activity brought her a lot more paperwork and phone calls than the usual. Lucky for her, though she wasn't a witness and didn't have to help with the police report, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Aiko grabbed it and unlocked it swiftly. The group chat she was in had a few new messages. Group chat erased. Definitely a bad idea to accept this position. Genjutsu lol 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗧𝗏. Poor boy, come here, I'll give you a hug. Erased. I politely refuse. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. Just left the police station. I miss my son 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. Me too. Genjutsu me 3 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. Just for the heck of it, Aiko typed group chat me 4 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. Anyone want to join me and Genji on karaoke? The chat group was deadly silent for the next 5 minutes. Aiko chuckled and tucked her phone away. Just the mention of karaoke brought ectoplasm's nightmarish singing voice to her mind. It was like a screeching banshee clawing the ground as she gave birth while being stabbed repeatedly by a wailing demon. Not planning on going, Genji Aka Genjutsu walked up to her with his phone in hand. He was carrying his backpack, looking ready to leave. No, not today. It's our weekly movie night. As Aiko grabbed her pack, Genji turned off the light and locked the door after they exited the building. Walking across the courtyard, Genji asked, how's Tenko doing? Oh, just the usual, you know. He's more attached to Tenki than me, and that doesn't seem like it'll change anytime soon. Aiko finished with a sigh. Genji patted her on the back reassuringly. Hey, kids are always like that. They prefer one parent over the other. Hell, give you 2 equal treatment once he hits puberty. Aiko glared at him without putting much force into the look. That's not funny. Genji chuckled as they began to part ways at the entrance. Genji said, well, wish you good luck. I'm about to have my ears abused by ectoplasms singing. Can't say no to him, huh? Yeah, unfortunately, he wants me to change the room into a live concert stage with imaginary fans cheering him in the audience. Ah, man. Poor you. I'm about to enjoy myself over Ready Player One. Let's hope it's better than the book. Aiko waved at Genji, who sported a distressed look as she headed her way. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 hadn't become a hero for long, and he already hated the police station. Or more specifically, the police's way of handling things. Just a simple robbery took them hours of investigation. They droned on and on about every tiny little detail about the incident, whether the attack was coincidental or intentional, why the grandma was targeted, the relationship between the victim and the kids, how the kids reacted, how they took down the robber, why they were there, what time, how long, and then they had to stay in the waiting room as the officers spent 3 hours writing their goddamn report. Even the ever-so-collected ectoplasm began getting impatient as he drummed his fingers on his knees, his humming of some random song starting to irritate the hell out of 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. No wonder the police couldn't become heroes. Their work efficiency and time management would become their downfall in a villain encounter. When they were finally allowed to leave, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 practically ran out of the hellhole. He had never appreciated the sunlight so much. It's just how it is, ectoplasm said as he trailed after 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. They have to make sure they get every detail right. Reports are important after all. You'll get used to it. That's why you always bring a book with you to the police station, or download some on your phone. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 glared at the offending phone waving at his face and decided to turn on his heels and walk away. He wasn't in a good mood right now and had rather return to his apartment and his lovely cats as soon as possible. Ah, cats, just the mere thought of them brought a smile to his face. Do you want to go to karaoke with me and Genji? No. The older hero stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 clicked his tongue. It's a lot of fun. You look like you can use some music therapy right now. No thank you. I'd rather go home. What's so fun about home karaoke? is more fun. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 whipped around the word cats on the tip of his tongue before he changed it at the last second. I have an essay to write. Oh yeah. You're in college, right? What's your major? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 answered as he began to walk teaching. Oh, why do you want to become a teacher? The questions they just want. Stop. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, barely containing his impatience, tried to speak as nicely as possible. After all, despite how annoying this man was, he was still a senior, and therefore should be respected. 𝗬𝗓𝗵𝗃. I really need to finish this essay. Can we talk at a later date? Sure, I don't mind. The older man tapped something on his phone and 𝗬𝗵𝗲's phone buzzed. I started a new chat with you. Just reply whenever you're free. 𝗬𝗓𝗵𝗃 turned around and was about to walk away before looking back and saying, by the way, I work as a math teacher at UA. Then he left, leaving 𝗬𝗵𝗲 deadly still in the middle of the street. Maybe he should have been nicer to the man. The week after Izuku's first day at EAP was fun like Mama promised. She went with him on his daily quest hunt every day after school. They would walk into town and Izuku would complete his daily good deed quest and help a couple more people before his hour was over. Sometimes, if their schedule allowed, they would stay a bit longer, and whenever that happened, Izuku always walked with a skip in his step, happy to be able to help more people in need. When the next Saturday rolled by, Izuku had reached level 4 with 634 out of 800 XP. With every level he leveled up, the required XP doubled. When he became level 5, he would need 1,600 XP to level up, then 3,200 XP for level 6, and 400 XP for level 7, an overwhelming 12,800 XP for level 8. And so on. Of course, Mama was the one who calculated those numbers. Izuku didn't understand the bigger numbers, but he knew it'd take much longer for him to level up later on, which meant he wouldn't be reaching level 10. And getting his hands on a quirk anytime soon. Reaching level 4 had also gained him 2 more slots in the inventory. He now had his security alarm 18 mini flash bomb that exploded upon impact 28. And that took 6 seconds to explode. 38 hero analysis notebooks, 48 4-leaf clover, 58, and his bicycle 68, which his mama had allowed him to store inside, because it would conserve its condition so the bike wouldn't rust or be bothered by the weather conditions. And not to mention it never get stolen. His mama told him to only store it and take it out when he made sure no one was around. He left 2 slots empty in case of emergencies, like for that lifesaver trick. After helping an average of 8 to 9 people every day with simple tasks, Izuku had saved up 67 reputation points. He hadn't encountered a situation where he needed to purchase anything, so he refrained from spending a single point. It wasn't like he needed canned drinks, 50 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏, a toothbrush, 10 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏, more lifesaver candies. His observe was now at level 5, and he could now see people's name and level as well as their age and personality. When he observed them, he practically observed every single person on the street within his proximity. Whenever he stepped out of the house to quickly level up, seeing how observe was the easiest technique to level up, it turned out that when a technique reached level 5, it would gain an upgrade, unlocking more power and lasting longer. Izuku had also learned a few more techniques. Name Midoriya Izuku. Title: None. LV4 Exp 6348 Season. Required Exp doubles every level. HP 3/4 3/4 2s MP 3/4 3/4 2s. Age 6. Quirks: None. STR 4/5 being average for your age. Def 4 Sp 5. Dex 5. Attribute points 0. Luck 5. Changes everyday rep points 67. Techniques: Observe LV 5 4 2 3 4 0 Exp. Observe others. Stats: Name, level, age, and personality. MP usage 5 MP per use. Search LV 370225 Exp. Search for your target in the crowd faster. MP usage. Not technique is passive sprint. LV 268150 Exp. Provide a 25 boost of speed when running. MP usage 20 MP per use. Last 5 seconds. Jump LV 223150 Exp. Provide a 25 boost of strength in your legs when jumping. MP usage 20 MP per use. He gained search during the 𝐒𝐭𝐻𝐽 quest. Sprint and jump were gained while running around during recess. Kaken had looked at him all strangely when the useless Deku started prancing around like a dog seeking attention, as he put it. Izuku had bounced around all recess trying to discover more techniques, but in the end, jump and sprint were all he got. When he leveled up to level 4 after completing the 𝗎𝐭𝐻𝐽 quest, Izuku received 2 attribute points, which he added to speed and dexterity. After careful consideration, he had thought about it for a while. Being quirkless, it'd be stupid to fight his opponent's face on strength and defense. Wouldn't do anything to people like Kaken, who could burn you no matter how strong your defense was, and fighting him with fists was useless when he could just throw an explosion at you to knock you away. That was why Izuku chose speed and dexterity to gain faster reflex and dodge incoming attacks and escape faster. Like Mama said, he was still young. There was no need to carry everything on his shoulders. It was fine to share the burden with heroes and run away until heroes come to save him. Childhood was supposed to be enjoyed, not filled with training and fights. There was no reason for him to quickly become stronger. He had lots of time. It was fine to take it slow. The rest of the week flew past, and before Izuku noticed, Saturday had arrived, and he was riding alongside Mama as they made their way towards Ip, watching the scenery As they flashed past him, Izuku wondered what Gentle was doing right now. Clash! A plate shot past his ear, grazing his cheek and shattering against the wall behind him. Tobita flinched, squeezing his eyes shut as he felt a line of blood dripping down his cheeks. "You worthless, useless piece of shit!" His mother's shrill cry reached his ears. Tobita kept his eyes closed, refusing to look at his mother's terrifying expression. "I'm sore. Do you know how much we've spent on you, raising you, feeding, clothing, putting a roof over your head? We don't care if you become a hero or not. All we ever wanted was a peaceful life without any troubles. And now look at how you repaid our kindness." A hand slammed against the table. Tobita blinked. His expulsion letter lay on the dining table. It was wrinkled with ripped edges. Obviously someone had been squeezing it very hard. "The fuck you do that for?" his father, who was sitting with his head down at the table, roared at his mother. "The hell are you talking about? You saw me sitting here right next to you? Yet you slammed your fucking hand right next to my fucking ears. You trying to start something? Oh yeah, and now it's my fault, huh? It's my fault for not raising my son better. It's my fault for not getting rid of that stupid hero dream of his. Everything's my fault, right? Are you satisfied now? When did I ever say it's your fault? Listen, you goddamn woman, no. You listen." Tobita couldn't hold it any longer. He ignored his parents' shouting match and ran into his room. Slamming his closet open, he grabbed a few random clothes and stuffed them in his school bag. After dumping out its content, he ripped his charger out of the outlet and threw it inside his bag along with a few bags of snacks and bottles of water. As he was about to zip up, his eyes landed on his little notebook. He paused, weighing his chances, and in the end dropped it inside his pack. He wasn't giving up yet. He changed into something comfortable, then grabbed his backpack, phone, and wallet before skidding down the stairs without looking back. Tobita left his house. It was already nighttime. Tobita stood outside, eyeing the spray paint of the word garbage next to the nameplate of his house. His heart felt empty as he thought about leaving his home forever, the place he grew up in, where he had his first tea party, celebrating his victory of a calligraphy contest, where his father threw him into the air and dropped him for the first time, where his mother brought him his favorite tea and cakes when he worked past midnight, where he stole his father's computer to watch YouTube videos before receiving his first laptop, where he took his parents' kindness for granted and never gave anything in return. "I will be back." Tobita forced himself to look away from the house. The normal house that looked just like any other houses on the street. The house no one would give a second look at except him. The house wasn't anything special, but to him leaving it was like throwing away a piece to a puzzle. Tobita dragged his foot along the pavement, half hoping his parents would notice his absence and chase after him. Seconds flew past, minutes went by, their voices diminished, and soon Tobita was all alone in the middle of the night, on an eerily silent street with nowhere to go and no plans for the future. He brought his hand up to his cheeks. The blood had dried and left an impressionable mark on his face. He had to get rid of it. There was a park near his house, which should have a water fountain. He could use it. Wasn't very far, just about a 10-minute walk. When Tobita arrived, he noticed many homeless people sleeping on the benches, some in the bushes. They looked no different from him at the moment, just a bit dirtied. The thought of himself possibly joining their rank brought a wave of fear over him. Tobita shook his head. Getting rid of that thought, worrying about the future, wouldn't do anything except slow him down and make him doubt himself. He had to keep being optimistic, believe that the future was bright and filled with singing birds and sunshine. Besides, Izuku believed him. He had to live up to his promise and be a hero. Even if it wasn't for him, he'd do it for the boy, his very first fan. After drying his cheek with his sleeve, wincing a bit as the rough fabric of his jacket grazed the cut, Tobita sat down on an unoccupied bench. The next bench over had a man around the age of 40, sleeping on it. It was kind of hard to tell since all the unshaved hair probably added at least 10 years to his real age. Tobita shivered as he imagined himself looking like that in a few years. Suddenly, there was footsteps pounding on the ground. Someone was coming this way. Tobita froze, his body on high alert. Who could it be at this time of the day? A villain? No, don't jinx it, Tobita. It's probably a random jogger. Yeah, probably some guy doing his daily night jogs, or someone on their way to the convenience store. Or the stranger had almost reached the park, their footsteps extremely loud in the silence of the night. Acting on his instincts, Tobita lay down on the bench, hugging his backpack tightly to his chest. He squeezed his eyes shut as he turned, leaving his back facing towards the entrance of the park. The person running paused at the entrance. There was a moment of silence before they stepped into the park. Without hesitation, they began making their way towards Tobita. Tobita didn't dare to move or breath or blink or do anything. His entire body was stiff all the way down to his toes. All sorts of terrifying thoughts regarding this situation occupied his mind, thoughts that he desperately wished would disappear at the moment, because they were not helping. The stranger stopped inches away from his bench. They shifted around, then something Tobita couldn't see, but he felt move towards him, which he assumed was a hand. It stopped on the cut on his cheek, rubbing it gently, the soft touches causing goosebumps to form all over his body. Now the thoughts in his mind were going in a whole new direction, reaching a whole new level of creepiness and disturbance that he didn't dare to dwell on before he could think of a way to get out of this strange situation, the person whispered. Tobita, the voice was familiar. Tobita snapped his eyes open to a familiar face. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 jerked back and landed on his rear, his eyes wide in shock. Roman 2T thought you were asleep. Tobita also sat up in surprise, pressing his hand to his chest. Don't scream right next to my ear. Both stared at each other's for a moment. Then both laughed at the same time. Man, I thought you were some rapist or serial killer. I totally thought I was dead. Tobita sighed as he relaxed against the bench. It was nice to see a familiar face after something like that, although the familiar face belonged to the last person he wanted to see at the moment. Sorry, I scared you. I didn't mean to do that. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 rubbed the back of his neck as he apologized. I couldn't sleep, so I decided to take a walk. I thought I saw you, but I wasn't sure, so I decided to take a look. Sorry, I really didn't mean to creep you out. It's fine, you're forgiven. So. Tobita looked away from the curious gaze of his popular classmate, ashamed of being seen in his disgruntled state, especially by the perfect and popular 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏. He feared how the popular boy would react to his being a disgrace to his parents and a failure in life. He feared rejections. You can stay the night at my house if you want. I live alone. Tobita spluttered, shaking his head and waving around frantically. No, I can't bother you that way. It's not a bother. Besides, 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 stopped his waving hand and pushed it down. I can't just turn away when a classmate of mine is in need of help. I'm trying to become a hero, and that's not something a hero would do. 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏's eyes were bright and honest like the brilliant sun that was too far out of Tobita's reach. It was physically impossible to say no to that look. All right then. Thank you. You're welcome.